And good morning. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. A lot to do on the program today. Coming up, the Ironman himself, Cal Ripken Jr., will join us. Talk a little bit about Orange-tober. Obviously, we'll talk about Brooks Robinson, of course, as well, with the great Cal Ripken here in a bit. In a few minutes, Matt Millen, Big Ten Network analyst, of course, a man who knows a thing or two about winning a Super Bowl. Matt Millen was on the call for Maryland's win over Indiana on Saturday. We'll talk to him about that and look ahead to Maryland, Ohio State this coming Saturday as the Terps try to shock the world and back up their 5-0 start. We'll talk to Matt Millen in a bit. Also later on this morning, we'll preview Waiver-Wire Wednesday. Not an electric Waiver-Wire Wednesday this week. Just not a lot of... The good news, the good news is that means there weren't really all that many significant injuries this week. There can be some names that might still be percolating. Maybe you're all worked up about like Michael Wilson in Arizona. We'll talk about those things, but it just feels like a good week to maybe rest, save your fab dollars for players that are more significant.
No time for rest.
No Devon Achane on the waiver wire this week. No Puka Nacua. Nothing like that that's going to change your fantasy season that we believe. But we'll talk about it anyway with Joe Serpico, PressBox Fantasy Football.
Got my eye on a defense, league winner.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Sure. I was already up by 100 points last night. And then the Seattle defense got ahead and got me 30 more. It's like, I could use some of these points next week. Anybody want to save any? Nope, not the case. All right, tonight, Tyus Bowser Show. We will be at Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North starting at 7 o'clock. The Tyus Bowser Show is a partnership of PressBox and Grade 8's Memorabilia. It is brought to you by Superbook Sports and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. Myself, Rita, Tyus, and his special guest, Ravens running back Justice Hill, is his special guest tonight. Justice Hill will join us and Tyus Bowser tonight at 7 at Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North. Plenty. 2 questions I get asked all the time whenever we do a show. The first is, what's the parking situation? And I understand that. As a man of a certain age, I need you to know how much I understand you asking me about parking, because inevitably it guides decisions that I make as well. It's going to happen that way. And that's the reality I get every time we go to Guilford Hall Brewery. Hey, what's the parking situation like? Well, let me be as frank as I can. There is no specific lot for Guilford Hall Brewery, but I have been 15 times, and I have never found anything but an abundance of available street parking, either directly outside or within 1 block of Guilford Hall Brewery. So I am, as a guy who cares deeply about this subject, literally to the point where I fight with the people that are in charge of making these events happen. And I say, have we thought about parking? Every time. It is something, it's the Virgo in me, it's whatever you want to call it. I'm obsessed with it. So I understand it when somebody reaches out to me like, hey, man, what's the parking situation at Guilford Hall? I'm so glad you asked. I hate this topic, but I'm telling you, it is not an issue. And if you've never been, you have no idea what you're missing. I know there are about 1 billion places that call themselves breweries now. I understand that, like, you can't sneeze without running into a couple of breweries. This one is perfect. We have an upstairs.
Updoor, yeah.
Updoor. Let's go with updoor. We have an upstairs event space that we use. It's the same event space that they use for, like, wedding receptions, things along those lines. It is spacious. We have had massive crowds for events. We've had smaller crowds for events, and it never feels like you're cramped. It never feels like you're on top of people, anything along those lines. Plus, the food's great. The beer selection is outstanding. Tonight, 7 o'clock at Guilford Hall Brewery, the Tyus Bowser Show with special guest Justice Hill. We will see you tonight for the Tyus Bowser Show. Find out more at PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. Again, brought to you by Superbook Sports, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, and a partnership of PressBox and Grade 8's Memorabilia. Cool? Capiche? We good? Great. Not a whole lot to say. We're still kind of waiting on. First of all, I dig the fact that the Orioles are doing a public workout with the team. Great opportunity for. I don't like talking about it in these terms, but realistically, we have to be honest. And I say this all the time about like preseason football. There are two groups of people. There are people that simply economically say either it's not worth it to me, or it's just not realistic for me to be able to go to playoff games. I understand that group of people. I have come from that group of people. Truth be told, it's still not economically viable for me to go to these games. I've just gone ahead and going to decide that, like, my kids aren't going to go to college. That's what it is. By the way, I was thinking about how much money people probably paid for, like, a ticket. If you're a Giants fan, how much did your ticket cost last night to watch that?
Yeah, probably.
And I'll come back to that thought in a second. But, like, that for that group of people that either just decided that economically it does not make sense or it's not viable, and then the other group of people is kids. And that, to me, has become the more significant thing. I swore, in fairness, I don't like going to any football games, any NFL games. But I swore I would never again watch in any form a preseason football game. Until a year ago, somebody called me and said, "Hey, man, would your kids want to go to the preseason game tonight?" And I was like, piss. They probably would.
And then those make
and
most
I took
sense. Well, they're most financially
for financial reasons,
well.
makes all the sense in the world. If they want to leave at halftime, if they're getting antsy, we can do that. There are fewer drunken a-holes that you will have to deal with at a preseason game. One, because there are a few people that come to the preseason games, and two, because they're not as, all keyed up about, oh, we gotta be Pittsburgh today. It's just less of that exists. It makes sense. I'm not going to take my kids at 8 and 6 to Major League Baseball playoff games. Economically, again, nonsensical. The games start later. There's no 6:30 start time for a playoff game, although there are afternoon games. But when we get deeper into the playoffs, there'll be fewer of those. It's just not sensical. So doing something like this makes all the sense in the world. So I give the Orioles credit for that. This is a smart thing to do. While it doesn't really interest me necessarily, right? Like, I don't have any interest in going and watching batting practice. I still get it. It makes sense. It's an opportunity. And it's also during the afternoon, so like you'd have to take your kids out of school. That is the awkward part about this. But it's an opportunity to go let them have a feel for playoff baseball and the excitement that everybody's feeling in town. So I dig it. I think it's smart. You can just go claim your ticket, sit in the stadium, feel the atmosphere, feel the electricity. I love it. All for it. I know they're doing some other events this week to try to celebrate and send in the bird around and send in all of, Mr. Splash is going around town this week. That, of course, is not necessarily for me, but it might be for somebody, and I dig that too. So all on board with all of those things and love what the Orioles are doing. We don't have any information yet, nor will we, I think, until Friday at the early. I don't think they actually have to set the roster until like an hour and a half before the game or something like that. I don't think they have to make those decisions. Now, maybe they'll choose to announce some of them beforehand, and maybe I have this wrong. I'm just trying to remember this from the last time the Orioles were in the playoffs. I think they don't have to set the roster until right before the game starts. So many of these things that we've been debating and that we'll continue to discuss throughout the course of the week, who should be the closer. First of all, they don't have to announce who the closer is at all, and they probably won't. I'm sure Brandon Hyde will be asked about it. And the only interesting thing will be, does he feel the need to tell publicly whoever, if they have decided on a person, does he feel the need to say, we publicly have faith in Yennier Cano? And if that's the case, then we might learn about it. If not, I don't even think he'll give us an answer. I think he'll just sort of say, "Man, we'll find out," or, we're gonna continue looking into our options and given what the circumstances are and what the situation is. I think that's the most likely scenario. Is he's gonna dodge until Saturday, or whenever they're in a save situation. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully they win every game by 10 runs, and they don't need a closer at any point during the playoffs.
That happens so much during the regular season.
Yeah, not normally the way that it works at all. But,
we should expect that, yeah.
It would be neat if it did. Same thing for the other things that we're debating. I've seen way more movement on the 14 roster, 14 position player, 12 pitcher argument. I don't think I support that. I think I'm opposed to the concept. I've laid out my reasons why. I do think it makes more sense. I think at least one team already acknowledged they were doing that for the wild card round, which gets underway this afternoon. I think it makes a bit more sense in the wild card round when it's at most 3 games. You don't need a 4th starting pitcher. What are we doing here? Of course it makes more sense for you to go with a 14 position player roster for a wild card round. For a division series, it only takes one 17-inning game to screw up all your plans. I just don't think I can support it. I'm going to continue to say that. And given as quickly as you pull your pitchers in the playoffs, I just don't see it. I see it for a series that's at most 3 games long. But for a series that will be 3 to 5 games long, I can't go along with that. It doesn't work for me. But we're going to continue to wait on those answers, and I don't know when we might get them. I don't know if they're going to do – I assume they'll do a media availability around this workout tomorrow. I assume. But I don't know that either. I'm just sort of assuming that they'll do that and that will provide us some sort of opportunity to hear from Brandon Hyde and at least have these questions be asked, even if he's not going to give answers. So, right, there's that. Oh, yeah, the Rangers-Rays series. Obviously, all the wild card series get underway today. The Rangers-Rays series, of course, is the one that we'll have the most interest in because it will provide the answer as to who the Orioles are playing in the next round. And interestingly enough, that's the one that's happening in the afternoons. So 3 o'clock today. And I believe the game times are the same for today and tomorrow. I don't know what that would be on Thursday if there were game 3s. I would assume that they would
move it.
They would try to get it all in prime. If there's 2 game 3s on Thursday, I would assume that they want them at
4 and 7
or 6 and 8, 9 or whatever. I mean, whatever, however the timing would work out. Although nothing starts later than 8 o'clock in this round. Is that because nobody's on the West Coast? Mets, Phillies, Twins.
I guess.
Yeah, Twins are in Central Time.
Yeah,
and the Diamondbacks are on the road. Yeah, so nothing is past Central Time. So that probably has something to do with why all the times, and so that probably means there wouldn't be an option for starting. Maybe the latest you could start a game would be 9 o'clock, because that would be 8 o'clock Central Time. So maybe they would try to stagger and make it 6 and 9 on Thursday night if there were 2 game 3s. Of course, there's also football on Thursday night, so maybe they try to avoid that and they just say, "Hey, we're playing everything in the afternoon." I don't think they would do that.
They might.
I don't think they would do that.
There's always good atmosphere. I mean, there's good atmosphere.
It's
no
the
matter
playoffs.
What, so.
I get it, except for in Tampa. It's the playoffs. There will be largely good atmospheres.
Can't tell what time of day it is.
It's a good thing they didn't bother to move the stadium back to Tampa to try to get fans to go. They just said, "Hey, is our biggest problem the fact that it's in St. Petersburg? Well, let's keep it there."
Looks cool though. Big aquarium.
Sure. The wrong part of town. It's just nonsensical. And then as far as the football game was concerned last night, clearly not a lot to be said. We all knew how reckless it was to spend as much money on Daniel Jones as the Giants did, and it spoke to the fear that permeates throughout football about not having a quarterback. And it was always comical to sort of put it in the context of what was going on with Lamar Jackson. I think what we're still missing, because we're laughing at Atlanta and we're laughing at the Raiders and we're laughing at New Orleans and all these teams that didn't try to get on Lamar Jackson, but we're rewriting history in the process. The Ravens made it clear to everyone, and that was what we learned as the process went along. The Ravens made it clear, don't bother. Don't get involved. You're not getting Lamar Jackson. We're going to match. You can go reckless and wild if you want, but we're going to match anyway. Now, in hindsight, should a team have done it? Like a team like Atlanta, should they have just done it anyway and said, either we're going to force the Ravens to do something crazy with their cap, or we're going to try to bowl them over with the try. I don't know. I don't have those answers, because I think ultimately what we learned is that the Ravens were going to keep Lamar Jackson come hell or high water. So separate it from that. The fear of not having a quarterback is so crippling in the NFL, it's death. Now, you could say this might be the one thing that's worse than death, which is purgatory. Like, I would listen to that argument. I would listen to the argument that the New York Giants are in a worse place than even the Atlanta Falcons, who just don't have a quarterback. Because you can say the Giants are the team that recklessly spent on someone who they knew was not good enough. And I know that last night isn't necessarily Daniel Jones' fault, and if you were a Giants fan listening to me, you'd probably say to yourself, like, oh, you're screaming at Daniel Jones. How about the offensive? I get it. He was running for his life on every play. But let's not pretend like this was the first example. You know what play he wasn't running for his life on? The pick six. That's on Daniel Jones. The one opportunity they had to make it a football game. That's not on the offensive line. That's on him. He's not good enough. But the Giants were terrified of a world in which they didn't have a quarterback. And so they were willing to pay an extraordinary amount of money for someone that we just know isn't good enough. And that's the damnedest thing about the NFL. And it's the reason why the Ravens ultimately had to pay whatever they had to pay in order to make sure that Lamar Jackson was going to be a Baltimore Raven. And why every time you guys try to, well, but he didn't finish the year last year. It just, what is the alternative? This is the NFL. The Seahawks, I wish I could get more invested in the Seahawks. Like, the Giants had nothing to offer last night, and the Seahawks still were not all that impressive. Like, it was a lopsided victory, but it was a lopsided victory because the other team was terrible. I think their defense is good. I certainly think their defense is good. But do I think they can be a threat? No.
Is it maybe somehow like like what the Ravens did against the Browns in the second half, where they just kind of knew the game?
It felt, but it was like that in the first half. Like, you're acting like they were methodically moving. Oh, my phone wants me to hear something. I'm good. I appreciate it, phone. I'm good with this. What the hell is going on over there? You're acting like they were methodically moving the ball in the first half. They just weren't. At no point did they like seize control of this game, other than the Giants just simply had nothing to offer, and so it was never competitive.
Geno Smith was a little banged up, I guess, and they didn't want to. I don't know. They didn't want to really let it loose. I'm not sure.
They're just not that good. Like, it's not hard. Like, they're fine.
I mean, on paper they do look
No,
good.
on paper they have a good defense, and they're not incompetent
really
offensively, right? Like, and ultimately this is the nature of the NFL. Geno Smith is okay. He's, at this point, arguably better than Daniel Jones. But, like, there was nothing about last night that made you say, God, I'm glad I sat down and watched that football game.
No, absolutely not.
This is the world that we live in. And the Giants are right back on Sunday Night Football in 2 weeks. I mean, these are deeper conversations that only I seem to care about with the NFL, where they, like, force feed the national TV windows to these big markets. And no matter how – we don't care how mediocre or how mid these teams are, we're going to force you to watch them. Because these networks are terrified that if you put a Jacksonville-Buffalo game on football – that there isn't a big market to lift up the ratings, as if we don't have every ounce of evidence that Americans will watch any football game that's on television. Now imagine if you gave them good ones for a change. Imagine if you mix things up and put a good football game on TV. I don't know if you saw, but in a couple of weeks they flexed Lions-Buccaneers back to the 4:25, the national TV window on Fox.
Good stuff.
Where I think their other option was going to be Patriots. What was the other option going to be? I can't remember.
See.
It was one of those games where you're like, ew. Ew. I think it involved the Patriots. I can't believe the NFL. Like 3 years ago, the Patriots were interesting, and the networks still haven't been willing to forget that that's not a thing anymore. Like they're still pretending like Tom Brady plays for the Patriots. Oh, it's the Patriots. You guys have watched them for years. They've always been reliable, right? Because they had good players. They don't have that anymore. Why are we still doing this bit? What is this charade where we're pretending like the Patriots are still a thing? Hang on, I'm pulling up Week 6 real quick. Week 6 was... Ugh. Oh, no, that wasn't the Fox. It was Patriots are in 4, but it's Patriots-Raiders. That wasn't the Fox game. It was Eagles-Jets. That was the Fox game. That was going to be, if they hadn't flexed. The country was going to get Eagles-Jets. And I get it, the Eagles at least are compelling. But good on the NFL, good on Fox for recognizing that we don't want to watch bad football teams. We're just not interested. I'm still not sold on how good the Buccaneers are. I still think this is largely a schedule-based fluke and that they are not going to be a particularly good football team this season. But at the worst, they'll be 3-2 going into this game. At the worst, they'll be competitive and probably still leading the NFC South. So I get the decision. All right, today's show is brought to you by Superbook Sports. Use the code GlennClark23 when you sign up at Superbook, and you'll get a first bet match same day up to $250, win or lose. I'm starting to look at some of the lines for this week.
I think we should just do primetime unders, right?
They've been bad football games.
Yeah,
that's part of. I think it depends on what the football game is. If one of these times they get around, to putting a good football game on TV,
bet primetime unders. I
might be willing to look at that.
I think that's the routes.
Ravens on the road, 4.5-point favorites in Pittsburgh on Sunday, despite the fact that there's some optimism now that Kenny Pickett may not miss a lot of time. That's the word. That it might be that he could even play on Sunday. So do with that what you will. Ravens 4.5-point favorites on the road Sunday in Pittsburgh. Use the code GlennClark23 when you sign up at Superbook. Take advantage of that same-day first bet match up to $250, win or lose. Maryland goes on the road this Saturday. They take on Ohio State, and they are 5-0 for the first time since back in 2001 when they went on to the Orange Bowl. Joining us now, he was on the call for Big Ten Network on Saturday as Maryland took care of business against Indiana. He is BTN analyst and football legend, 4-time Super Bowl champion Matt Millen, and he's back with us here on GCR. Matt, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to catch up with you as always. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, that was an interesting game. I think Maryland's got some good skill people. That'll be an interesting game at Ohio State because I don't know where Ohio State is, but I think they're probably another step up from Maryland, but we'll see what happens.
I got to be honest with you, Matt. I think a lot of people around here are excited, but cautiously excited, right? Like acknowledging the schedule has not been particularly daunting so far for Maryland, and I get it. Like the bar with Maryland football has been, even when the schedule's not been daunting in the past, sometimes they would come out of a stretch like this 3-2. So these are all good things. But how much do we really know, even from the 5-0 record, and even how much do we really know about what this Maryland team is capable of as of this point?
Well, you don't. I mean, here's what we do know. We do know that you have some skilled people. You know, you got Felton on the outside. You got speed with Prather. You got a solid right tackle, Glaze, 74.
Yeah, Delmar Glaze.
Tackle, rather.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the rest of the offensive line to me, that would be my worry point. But, Corey Dyches that kid can catch the ball and he runs good routes. He's not a great blocker, but he gets in your way. The whole key to the piece of this puzzle is Talia. Because I think he's in control right now. Just watching the game the other day, he's there's no thought process. He's just doing it. And he's accurate with the ball. His arm is strong enough. He's in control, and I think that'll be the key for them.
I guess I asked this: can that make up for the other issues? Because you bring up a couple of points that we've talked about a lot when it comes to Maryland football, particularly in the Mike Locksley era. The skill position players, outstanding. Talia, the best quarterback that Maryland has had in 20 or so years, right? Like, all of these things. But can they make up for the deficiencies they have on the offensive line? Or as they play these more high-quality Big Ten opponents, is that simply going to end up dooming them because they can't come up with answers?
Well, I mean, when you get to games like this is where it really shows. Is it going to doom them? I don't know how much of an eraser Talia can be. But in order to do that, you're still going to have to stop them.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to stop that offensive line. I think you can run against this Maryland defense. I think that's one of their heels, their Achilles heels. So I think they have some pretty decent people out, in the back end. Is he 100% healthy? Sorry,
I don't think so, but I'll double. I think Mike Locksley is going to speak today, so we'll get more of an answer on that today.
Yeah. So to me, what they don't have on the defensive side is a pure pass rusher, and that's hard. So if you don't have a guy who can just beat the guy across from him, then you have to try to manufacture stuff. When you start trying to manufacture, it means you're starting to bring blitzes. That means you're messing with your back end, which means you're going to be locked up man-to-man most of the time when you do that. And not always, but so I just think when you start rolling the dice like that, that's when you get exposed, and that's where I think the difference will be.
He is Matt Millen. He's with us here on GCR. Again, to his point, we are waiting and not only on word about Tarheeb Still, who left the game, but also Jayshawn Barham, who, of course, was limited on Saturday, and even Corey Dyches, who left the game. And these are all really important pieces for a Maryland team that's trying to figure out a way to shock Ohio State. Matt, we've seen in recent years, right? Like, we go back to the season where Matt Canada was running the team, and Maryland was a 2-point conversion away from beating Ohio State a year ago. They got the ball back late with a chance to go down the field and try to pull off an upset after they really battled Ohio State at home. Is it that Maryland's getting closer? I mean, we saw it with Michigan a year ago where Maryland was competitive. I think that we're all encouraged, but are you genuinely buying that they are closing the gap at all with the top teams in the Big Ten?
Oh, yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. I think that gap's been closing, and I think it's been closing steadily. I just think every team has pluses and minuses, no matter what it is. Even the championship teams have, they have pluses and minuses on their team. Right now, I think this Maryland team, their minuses are in places that are hard to cover up. So when I go in to watch a team, the first thing I do, and it's the same thing any scout would do when they come in, is you look at your offensive defensive fronts. So your offensive line, to me, really the first thing you say is, okay, do they have a quarterback? And the answer in this case is yes. Number two, do you have an offensive line that can do both aspects of the game? Can they run the football, and can they protect? And the answer is they can run the ball. They're suspect in protection.
Mm-hmm.
That's where then you have to look at the combination between Talia's feet, how he gets out of trouble, and their ability to be able to protect him and keep him upright all the time. And so I think that's where the negative is. Now, how much of a negative? Yeah, I don't really know Ohio State. I don't think Ohio State is as strong as they've been in the past, but they're still strong. They're young. They've got some skilled people. They always do. So it'll be interesting to see how that matchup. I'm actually looking forward to that matchup.
I think it'll be fascinating. I think it's going to be a huge moment for this program to try to prove again, even if they weren't not to win, but to just battle again, and I know that Maryland fans would some say, well, we've seen them battle with Ohio State. I think it's still an important thing to do to prove that this is not just fluky because of the schedule or anything along those lines. But, Matt, if there was a roadmap to doing this, right, if you could lay out, hey, for Maryland to go into Columbus and beat Ohio State on Saturday, it would have to look like this. What would that roadmap look like?
So that roadmap would have to include winning the turnover margin. That's the first thing. You cannot turn the ball over. So Maryland can't turn the ball over at all, okay? They need to get a couple of turnovers. You need good field position. And you can't have big chunk plays against your defense. And the defensive front is going to have to play the best they have this season against that Ohio State run game, because I again, like I said, they're going to have to do it with 7. If you start adding people, then you start taking chances on the outside. So if they can do those things, heck, they have a great chance of winning, because I think they're going to score points.
I feel like part of this conversation that we're having about this coming Saturday is also that we just don't think Ohio State is quite as infallible as they've been in past years. I don't know that we think that their offense is quite as magical and ever capable as they've always been. Are we maybe being a little bit, I can't even say, I believe I'm going to say this, are we being too dismissive of this still being Ohio State because they haven't been putting up 60 points per game to start the season?
No, I think what we're seeing, and I think you saw this against Notre Dame, I think what we're seeing is it's a young team. It's an unproven team. So
right.
You don't know exactly where they're at. And so one piece of the puzzle was that Notre Dame game, and they came back at the end when they had to. That showed you a lot. Now, I don't know how good Notre Dame is. None of us really do. But Ohio State was good enough to come back and beat them there. And so the biggest thing in college football, and really pro football, but they really see it a lot more, and it's more obvious in college football, is each and every step you take, you gain confidence. Confidence makes huge difference. The difference in good teams and great teams is confidence. The skill can be the same. If guys start believing that they can do stuff, they can achieve quite a bit. But when guys are still young and still trying to figure things out, every step you take on that confidence scale makes a big difference.
I think that's a really important thing. I feel like too, Matt, and I'll leave you with this. I also feel like this is such an opportunity for Mike Lott. It feels like this is the one thing that's missing on a national scale, right? Like everybody, everybody that's like you and I that pays attention knows what an absurd job Mike Locksley has done in a very difficult situation at Maryland and how perfect of a fit he is. And I couldn't say enough good things about Mike Locksley. But nationally, I think most people would say, what, he's the coach at Maryland? Okay, wake me up. Like, I feel like if they were to win this type of game on Saturday, suddenly the national, like the conversation changes completely about who Mike Locksley is and what Mike Locksley has done, and all of a sudden everyone across the country realizes just how remarkable it is what he's accomplished here.
Yeah, and I don't think Mike's in that boat by himself. That's a common thing, right? So he's put together the group, the people around who know, the people who've studied it and looked at it, but for the guy out in Southern California to say, Maryland, oh yeah, they're not bad. They haven't really played anybody. Let's see what Locksley got up there. So if they knock off at Ohio State, they go, whoa, he's done a really good job back there. It would be the same narrative in any school. I shouldn't say any school, but like for a team like Maryland, who's on the come, then that's what you're going to say. And I think Mike's done a great job. I think he's recruited well. I think he has this team where he wants. I think there's a lot of obstacles at every school, but he's overcoming them. So, yeah, is this a big game? Sure it is. Does this put them on the map? Yeah, but then they have more to go. And so it's just interesting. It's fun for me to watch, and it'll be entertaining.
He is Matt Millen. Matt, where are you going to be this weekend?
Where am I going to be this weekend, Patricia? I'm going to be in Chicago. She's doing my schedule right now.
It's important. You got to have someone keeping track of you. I understand how this time of the year works. I completely get it.
Oh, yeah.
Matt Millen, really appreciate taking the time for us this morning. Hopefully the next time we're talking about like a Maryland team that's sitting at 8-0, and there's really special things on the horizon as the season continues.
And there could be. I mean, the possibility is strong. So let's keep your fingers crossed.
Man, from your lips to God's ears, my friend. Matt Millen, really appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
All right, take care.
That's the great Matt Millen, 4-time Super Bowl champ, of course, with Big Ten Network. And the number, by the way, John from Little Rock points out to me, has shifted up to 19.5 again. 19.5, according to Superbook, for Maryland, Ohio State. So if you like Maryland being gifted another point or so there.
What did they see? What happened?
I think the injuries is probably what it is. I'm going to assume that list of guys that we're talking. Jayshon Barnum was limited on Saturday.
Yeah.
He played, but he was limited on Saturday. And you assume that that's part of the fact that they knew that Ohio State was coming up and they didn't want to push him too much. Like, he was available, but this is Indiana. Maybe we don't need a full game worth of Jayshon Barnum here. And then, pretty important. Tarheeb Still, Corey Dyches, those are really important pieces that both left Saturday's game. And again, the answers that we don't have would they both have been able to return if they would have needed them, if it hadn't been a butt kicking on Saturday. So you hope that you get a little bit more clarity about those guys, because I think those guys are really important going into, like, if Maryland's going to have a roadmap for beating Ohio State, it's going to have to involve having those dudes on the field. Today's show also brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Hey, you put up that tarp over the back seat of your car, right? You might, because we got some visitors in the studio today.
Yeah, dude, this is a good time for me
might
to run out there really
might want to run out and throw the tarp up over the back seat of your car if you get the chance. You might want to do that.
Okay.
Like, if you
all right,
if you think about it, you might want to do that.
Well,
got some visitors stopping by the studio here in a minute. Still to come this morning, Cal Ripken Jr.
He's joining.
What is going on? I am losing my mind. We'll do it anyway. It's Glenn Clark Radio. The Baltimore County Police Department is now hiring with competitive salaries, including for experienced police officers, starting salaries between over $68,000 and over $82,000 based on your prior service time, accepting up to 7 years of service times with only 6 weeks in the academy, minimum of 2 years prior experience. And police cadet starting salaries at over $32,000 must be between the ages of 18 and 20, but you can apply starting at 17 and a half. Must have a high school diploma or GED equivalent at the time of the hire, U.S. citizen at the time of the hire, and a valid driver's license. So if you have a passion for service and want a career for life, now is the time to join the Baltimore County Police Department. Call 410-887-5542 or visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
All aboard! The Orioles train keeps on moving, and it's ahead of schedule. The Birds are motoring towards a playoff run here in 2023 as their magic number keeps getting smaller and smaller. I'm Paul Valley, and you can find me along with Zach Goodman every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon right here on the Bat-Around. We'll navigate you through the playoff push as the Orioles look to put an exclamation point on what is turning out to be the best season of the last 40 years. So join us on the Orioles train, and let's enjoy the ride together right here on the Bat-Around.
Visit Harford County this fall. Celebrate arts across Harford September 15th through the 30th with dance, theater, music, and visual arts. September 29th through October 1st is the largest Italian festival in Maryland, featuring entertainment, cooking demonstrations, a bocce tournament, and family fun. If you're headed to the Maryland 5-Star, stay and play in Harford County. While you're there, enjoy the scenic views atop the King and Queen seats and experience pumpkin patches, corn mazes, and fall brews along their Harford Libation Trail. For more info, head to visitharford.com. Maryland open.
Picking a restaurant to try for the first time? Let's look at the Costas Inn. Here's a few checklist items. Quality of the food? Check. Quality of service? Check. Does restaurant have plenty of free parking? Check. And finally, does restaurant have delicious steamed crabs, crab cakes, crab soup, and specials galore? Check, check, check. Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They check all the boxes.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka dives into what's next for Lamar Jackson after receiving one of the biggest contracts in football history. Is Lamar ready to take the Ravens to the next level, now with a new offensive coordinator and new wide receivers? Also inside, we look at what new football coaches Brian Newberry and Pete Shinnick bring to Navy and Towson, respectively. And we meet players from the college football and soccer programs around the state. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Come for a game, stay for everything else. Book an unforgettable fall getaway in Charm City. Enjoy only in Baltimore festivals, mouthwatering eats, and endless entertainment. Treat yourself to a staycation in the heart of downtown, or try one of the city's many charming neighborhood hotels. And don't miss out on packages for free parking, breakfast, and more. Plan your stay at baltimore.org/hotels.
Don't forget about Project Game Day after every Ravens game this season. It's kind of like this show, except Rita's also there, so I actually think it's pretty good. But hey, you're already here now, so why don't you go ahead and keep listening to GCR?
All right, it's been a few months since I've seen you. You better have some damn stories for me this time around. You better have a couple of stories. Joining us now here in studio this morning on GCR, one of my favorite people. He is Corporal Robbie Wright, and he is back with us. It's been too long, brother.
Yes,
I know you and I have seen each other, but it's been too long since you've been in here.
No,
man.
you're right. It has been a while.
It's great to see you, buddy. Everything good?
Hey, everything's good. Just busy as always.
Yeah, I understand that. It's funny. I saw Robbie. Robbie and I went out to breakfast one morning, and he was just like, yeah, ask me about my weekends. Ask me about what life looks like these days.
But hey, recruitment never stops, right?
There is no
Never
doubt.
stops.
No doubt. And we need more of you. We need more of you who are committed. Do they still talk about my performance in the agility test? Do they still say, like, what a legend that guy was, showed up, disheveled, out of his mind, didn't train at all, and just blew everybody out of the water?
Well, not just that, but the academy staff's been asking, where have you been?
Yeah, when am I supposed to show up?
It's almost been a
and
year. They've been
report?
asking, like we've had 4 classes.
Man. Oh, man. I was actually worried that after I did that, like, you had done some work behind my back, and you're like, by the way, you're an officer now. You have to be here. Like, that's the way that it works.
Well, funny thing, you are.
Oh, damn it. I assume I've been fined by this point from my tardiness. Corporal, when we talk about the Baltimore County Police Department a lot, and I feel like one of the things that, and I know you have this event coming up that we're going to talk about here at the end of the month, but one of the things that I mention about this hiring event is that there are going to be members of the specialized units that are going to be there. And I think what's important about that is that a lot of people say a career as a police officer, I'm not really sure that I just want to be on patrol for the rest of my life. I'm not really sure that that's my thing. And I make a comparison to the military, and I know it's not the same thing, but I think a lot of people think about the military, and I'm like, I'm not going to go fight in Afghanistan. Like, I don't think that's for me. I don't think I could be that person, not realizing that, like, there are roles that aren't that they need to have filled, and that they don't hire civilians for. That's not the way that it works. So can you explain a little bit more for people that only think of foot patrol, only think of, being out in a car at night. Like, what all opportunities exist within the Baltimore County Police Department that are maybe not just patrol?
So one of the benefits of being one of the top 25 largest agencies in the United States, and that includes on that list LAPD, Chicago PD,
I don't think
and
I knew
YPD.
that. That's wild.
And people don't realize that we're authorized for 1,900 sworn police officers.
Wow.
So because of the size of our agency, we call ourselves, and we like to say, we're a full-service agency. So not only do we have the regular patrol units you might see, the officers in the car driving around day-to-day handling calls for service, or even some people who might be assigned to a specific beat. So you might see officers hanging around the Towson Circle area. Some officers might be assigned specifically to Security Square Mall. But we have plenty of detective units, plenty of community-oriented units that have plenty of positions and roles for people from various backgrounds. One I like to bring up is Technology and Communication Services, TCS. That unit has civilian employees, but it's also primarily made up of sworn police officers. They carry a badge and a gun. They went through the academy. They served their time in patrol, but they're officers who just have a interest and a passion in technology. So that unit assists us with many of the computers within our cars. They help us with our radios, the BWC body-worn camera program, and that's sworn officers who are either A, they have a background in technology beforehand, or B, they say, hey, I want to learn this and I want to do this. They get trained up, and hey, they go out and do it. They do a fantastic job. Same thing with our forensic section, and specifically the crime lab unit.
Okay.
We do have civilians there, but once again, many of them are sworn police officers. Once again, carry a badge and a gun, went through the academy. But hey, I have an interest in this. I want to do this. I want to learn to do this. They get trained up in it, and you are being served a lot of time with the crime scene evidence collection. You're being served by a fully sworn Baltimore County police officer. So what I tell people all the time is we're not just looking for what used to be the stereotypical cop, the person who just walks the beat, drives the car, handles the calls for service. We're looking for people for a wide variety of backgrounds, people from a wide variety of skills, whether you're good at technology, whether you're good at science, whether you're like me, you like coming, to places, talking to people.
Absolutely.
Interacting with
Recruiting,
people.
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or whether you just have a heart for the community, you want to be that cop that plays basketball with the kids at their schools. You reach out to those who are from lower income situations, lower social economic situations. If you have a passion or a skill and an ability, our agency can use it. Very, very rarely can you not find a place in our agency.
One of the things that I've always appreciated about our conversations, right, Corporal, is that we can talk openly about the trust concept, right, the topic. Yes. And what's important about that to me is that, I don't want to try to bamboozle anyone or make anyone think, that's not been an issue, not been something that you guys have had to deal with over the years. And these community events, and the one that we've been talking about most recently is coming up here at the end of the month on October 28th at the Public Safety Building. And I feel like the biggest thing, it's definitely for people that want to get into the higher.
Correct.
If you're looking for a career in the Baltimore County Police Department, or if you're even remotely interested, it's a great day for you. It's a day where you should be out to learn more and go through the agility test and go through if you fit that bill, this is a day for you.
Correct.
But the other side of it, to me, has always been the more important side, which is that these are days for the community.
Yes.
And these are days for you to come over, bring your kids for the trunk or treat, and just have a conversation. Let's talk. Let's talk about your, interactions with the police over the years. Let's talk about the relationship between the police and the community. Let's have an open conversation between us and you about how we're trying to make this relationship work moving forward to have trust in each other and what it is that we're doing.
Correct. And hey, look, if I get a little passionate on my end, I apologize. But the one thing I stress to a lot of people about the community hiring events, and you've laid it out perfectly, this is not just for those who are interested in the process, those who are in the process. I tell people all the time, get to know your local police agency. This is something that, look, if you're a Baltimore County resident, you pay for this. You pay for us.
That's a great point.
We all know that. You pay for us. So get to know us. Get to understand what we do. Get to understand our different units, not just patrol, but our specialized units that we hope to have on the day, such as our forensic section, our arson section. Get to know the people who work in those sections, what they look like, what they do. Get to see what they do on a day-to-day. We'll have units if they're there able to do demonstrations for you, whether it's if bombs there, they'll be able to demonstrate the robot for you. So get to know what your money's going to, but get to know the people you're calling on for help. I cannot stress that enough. It's so funny how I talk to applicants a lot of times, and they say, well, I have no idea anything at all about the Baltimore County Police Department, but you guys look good. And I'm like, well, that's all fine and dandy. I appreciate it.
I get that all the time for people that want to join Glenn Clark Radio. They're like, dude, I don't know what you do, but you look great.
Right,
exactly. Thank you. I get it all the time.
Yes, but come on and learn about us. So on Saturday, October 28th, we're going to do our second annual community hiring event / trunk or treat event. So the community hiring event portion is going to run from 9 to 2 o'clock. For that portion, with our prior events, we're going to have written testing, agility testing for those currently in the process, or for those who just want to walk up and get the process started. We'll also have myself, recruiters from my section, background investigators, and as mentioned before, the specialized units who will be there to talk to people about what they do and what their units are. The awesome part about the 28th, though, and the best part about it is the trunk or treat.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, and you attended it last year, we ended up with, we kind of did a hand count here, but close to 400 people walking through.
Wow.
I mean, it was to the point we were terrified of running out of candy.
Wow.
But it was such a great event to interact with the community, with all the families and the kids, all the costumes, the chance for them to come up to a police officer and get candy. I mean, it was such an amazing event, and I would say the best hiring event we've ever done. It was such an amazing time to interact with the community in a safe setting.
You just used a word there that's so important to me, too. Corporal, what you just said is the word safe. And I feel like around Halloween, this is a word that, like, a lot of parents struggle with. And they say, look, my kid is only 9 years old. My kid is only 10 years old.
Correct.
They want to go out with their friends, and I don't want to embarrass them by saying, well, you've got to let mom and dad tag along or something like that. This is the perfect opportunity to have them go out, get to put their costumes on, have fun, and know it's in about the safest environment you could ever possibly ask for.
Exactly. I mean, I cannot stress that enough. And I go to schools, I go to parents, and we've been making a big push for this for the last month. I tell people, look, if you're looking for a safe alternative to spend your Halloween, what better than the headquarters of the Baltimore County Police Department?
I mean, I don't know.
Really, what better?
I'm trying to think of any scenario by which it would be safer. Like, I don't think we could put everyone in bubble wrap and still have it be safer.
Exactly. and the other thing, I'll make another appeal is, and we go to certain schools like the Arrow Project, located down here. I think they're still here in Towson, and they may have moved.
I don't know the answer, but I'm going to find that out in 1 second.
But last year we went there, and we go to different schools, and we say, hey, look, if you have a community group, if you have a school, if you have a program where you have kids who may not be able to have a Halloween, which sounds crazy, right? But if they're in a situation that they may not have anything to do for Halloween just because of a lack of opportunity, lack of transportation, whatever that looks like, hey, bring them to our event. This thing is open. This is Halloween for us. We're handing out candy, and it's an opportunity. You got them in a safe area, and it's a great chance for kids to experience Halloween. I will say we did have students from places like the Arrow Project, St. Vincent's Villa. We had people at the Children's Home. We had people come from those schools, and kids had the opportunity to experience Halloween where they may have not had the opportunity.
He is Corporal Robbie Wright, the Baltimore County Police Department. Again, the hiring event is coming up Saturday, October 28th at the Public Safety Building, 700 East Joppa Road in Towson. Corporal, if they want to find out more about the event, is there somewhere we can point them to? I know there's a lot of phone numbers for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
There's a lot. The primary one will be www.joinbaltimorecountypd.com. There is no pre-registration. However, if you go on the website, you go to our event calendar, you'll find all the details in regards to if you're interested in the process. You'll find out the details about the written and the agility. If you're like, hey, I just care about taking my kids out and getting some candy. I'm an adult and I just want candy. Hey, you'll find
just come on out
about that too.
Can you use volunteers for that, or everything is taken care of?
So the one thing I will say is that we've been going out to different vendors.
Okay.
Anyone who wants to bring out a vehicle, community member, community group, if you want to bring out a vehicle, hand out candy with us, we've already gotten some feelers from the community saying, hey, like, I'm from this group. Can we do it? We're like, sure.
Cool.
The more the merrier.
Very
and
cool.
For that, they can just reach me on my work email. I can provide that
real
quick.
Ahead.
It's P as in Paul, my last name, WRIGHT, @BaltimoreCountyMD.gov. Once again, P as in Paul, then my last name, Wright, W-R-I-G-S-T, at baltimorecounty.md.gov.
That is awesome. That's a cool opportunity, and I love the fact that you're doing that, and that word safe just keeps coming to mind. And a reminder, if I can pass the agility test.
Correct.
Look at me. Look at me, Baltimore. Look at me. I passed it easily. Easily, correct? I'm not speaking out of turn.
No, you passed. Yeah.
Was there any moment during that morning where you were like, I don't know?
Actually, no. I can't even sit here and
I
go
played
with
it
you.
up.
No.
I played it up well for the video. I made it seem like there was but easily. I was a little bit worried because I thought I had heard that it was 1 mile and 13. I was like, I could walk in that. And then I got there like, it's actually 1.5 miles. I was like, oh, I actually have to move. I actually have to put a little effort into it.
And to this day, I apologize for that.
That's fine, because was there a problem? Did I have any?
No, you didn't.
And I did appreciate the encouragement. Every time around, I was here. All right, Glenn, you got this. I'm like, I do have this.
Yes.
I do. No problem. If I can pass it, you can pass it. That is a solemn promise that I make to you.
Exactly.
That I can pass it, you can pass it. All right, 2 things I want to cover with you just because you're here. The first is, I realize that, the stadium, it's not your jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
You have nothing to do with that. I don't know, maybe some of your officers are going to be helping out in some way. I know a lot of times jurisdictions lean on each other during big event times. But I also feel like there's going to be pandemonium in our community for the next few weeks related to the playoffs.
Very much so.
And I think there might be a lot of people that are thinking, I'm going to hop on, say, like the light rail from up in Hunt Valley, and I'm going to get sloshed, and I'm going to go. I just wonder if you could give some advice to people that are thinking this is full-on party season now, and there are no rules anymore, and it's playoff time, baby. Like, the hell with rules, the hell with like that. Just feel like if you just might have a little bit of advice for people about how they can handle themselves and understand that, like, there might still be some rules and laws in certain situations, and don't get yourself in trouble.
So the biggest thing I would say is, and one, I do appreciate anyone who makes the decision. Look, if you're going to go out and have a good time, I appreciate anybody who says, look, I'm going to take the light rail down. I'm going to take either an Uber, public transportation. I'm not going to get behind the wheel of a vehicle, put myself or anybody else in danger. I appreciate anybody who makes that decision. One thing I would say is just have common courtesy because it's not just you. You're going to have at the stadium, 40,000, 45,000 people, and then you're talking about a massive community just hanging out outside the
I think there are going to be a lot
of
of people that are going to choose to I just want to be downtown.
They just want to be down
right
there. So just have common courtesy. Just be respectful of the people beside you. Because, look, it's not just you enjoying it. It's you, and probably I would say I wouldn't, think this would maybe be extreme number, maybe close to 100,000 people.
It depends on how far. If they keep going further
Correct.
in the playoffs, I don't think you're great. Like, if we get to the point where we're talking about there being a World Series game in Baltimore,
yes, exactly.
I think there's a non-zero chance that 100,000 people descend upon the immediate downtown area.
So just be aware of the people around you. The other thing is this, and I say this about any area. It doesn't have to be Baltimore. It can be Towson, Owings Mills. It can be D.C. It can be Frederick.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, just keep your head on a swivel. Just be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of who you are. Make good decisions. Maybe plan out your route before the game. Just say, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. Just make sure that, especially if you have little ones, you're always keeping an eye on them, just, holding on tight to them, or just, you know where they are, because once again, we're talking 50,000 people around the stadium. You're talking about a World Series of close to 100,000. You just want to have a game plan, be very mindful of the people around you, be mindful of the people with you, and, just understand that it's not just you down at the game. There's a lot of people there. Hey, keep your head on a swivel, be mindful, be respectful. And, I would hope everybody has a good time. Everybody has a great time. The Orioles sweep whoever they play this weekend.
God, from your lips
they
to
sweep
God's
the
ears.
ALCS, and they sweep the World Series.
And win every game by 10 runs, and we all just get to
Exactly.
high five for a month and have nothing but unbridled joy around here. I'm going to ask this question as I'm not what is the statute of limitations, by the way? Like, how long would something have had to have happened? I'm going to present to you. I'm just going to tell you a story.
Okay, yes.
All right? And you can shake your head at me, do whatever.
Okay.
One year, when I was a very young man, it's a group of friends and I, the day of the first game, the first day of the NCAA tournament was like our Christmas.
Okay.
This is what we lived for, was hanging out, watching basketball together, taking the day off. It was our day. And one year, my buddy Chris said to me, we should do something we should have like a party to kick it off in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And we drove up to, just because it was the one that was closest, the minor league baseball stadium in Aberdeen in Harford County.
Okay.
And we just showed up and threw a tailgate party.
Okay.
Right? Like, I know it sounds nuts.
Yes.
But it was wonderful. Like, we talk about this day still for 20-ish years. We've talked about, we got to do that again somehow. We have these conversations. If somebody said to themselves, I'm planning on going downtown, I'm planning on taking the light rail, I'm planning on getting Hunt Valley, are they allowed to, like, show up and hang out and
Ooh.
I don't know what the rules are.
That's
here.
a good question. So it really depends on the location.
Okay.
I know that depending on where you're going. So, I would say it really depends on the location.
All right. I know I'm putting that in.
No,
I understand
you're
that.
good. I would always check and ask for permission first.
Okay.
Just in case.
Don't get yourself
right.
in trouble that you don't need to get yourself into.
And to answer and
you
to
know
answer your
what?
question.
I might have actually tailgated once at the Hunt Valley town. This is man. One of our buddies was like part of the group that opened the Wegmans. Like he was like working for the company. And he was like, people like camp out the night before in order to like be the first person to shop at a new. I'm like, really? So we all decided that we were going to throw an overnight tailgate party.
Yes.
At the Wegmans when they opened it all. I mean, what, 20 years ago, something like that. And yet we weren't the first in because we maybe had a little bit too much party. We maybe had a little bit too much.
So I would say, rest assured, your police statute limitation might be over.
Okay, I'm good. All right, thank God. Thank God.
Now, if Wegmans or let's say the Ironbirds were to say,
right, yeah, we still want to have a
yeah,
conversation all these years later. We might be in a little bit of a different. Yeah, that might have been a thing that occurred. That was a.
You may not.
I
don't
actually
think go to jail.
No, you know what? I actually remember at one point an officer coming over and approaching. What is that?
Yeah.
Approaching us that night. I speak for a living. This is what I do. This is how I feed my kids.
Right.
And I can't make words happen. I remember an officer approaching us that night and just being very like, what are you guys doing? Like, well, we're tailgating for the opening of the Wegmans. And he was like, really? Yeah. And, like, we weren't going to lie. Like, what are we going to do? Like, no, we don't have any beers. No, we don't. Right. Like, we're definitely, and we were all of age. Like, we were all 21. And so they were very like, okay, no carrying on. No, if we get noise complaints, then we're not gonna try to break up you guys, having a good time. But like, you got to be careful. Don't make any bad decisions. Like, they were very cool about it, as I remember that.
And what you probably told them was so stunning to them. They were probably
like what do we do about this? This isn't in the handbook of how we handle this situation. Is what if somebody's throwing a tailgate party at a Wegman?
I will say in our 6-month academy, we do not go
You don't
over
cover that particular topic.
Tailgating at a supermarket.
I've done a lot of things in my life, Corporal, but yeah, that actually was genuinely a thing that happened. All right, I told you at the beginning, you better have a story. It's been months since you have been here in studio with us.
Yes, that's true.
There better have been someone who attempted to eat like an entire bag of edibles. You better have some sort of story that you can tell.
Oh my goodness. And one of these days when I'm coming here, I got to sit there and be like, I got to come up with a story. I got to have a story.
Or what I really need from you is I need you when something happens. Like, when you get back to the office and somebody's like, oh, dude, wait till you hear about this one. I need you to text it to me.
Right.
So that we can remember to bring it up
the
next time you're here.
Yes.
I need you to be like, oh, yeah, Glenn needs to hear about this.
And the crazy thing is, I think of radio-appropriate stories, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a really good one. But then a day will go by, and I'm like, damn it. And then you'll put me on the spot. And, no, I don't mind it at all. But it's like, I don't have anything.
All right.
I honestly don't have anything.
All right. Next time I need, because I think it's not going to be quite as long before I see you again. I need you to have a story for me.
Gotcha.
I need you to ask around the office. I need somebody to have a story that we can tell on the air. We can redact the names. We can redact anything that would make it identifying in any way.
Right.
Right? We can just allude to the circumstances of the story and not get anybody in trouble.
Okay.
All right?
All right. Yes.
October 28th. Public Safety Building in Towson.
Yep.
Hiring event and community trunk or treat. It's for everyone. Robbie wants you to join the Baltimore County Police Department.
Yes,
that's
a
promise.
He
wants that. But even if you're not looking to do that, it is a day to come out and have some touch with the police and the community, get candy for the kids, just have a wonderful day, a very safe event. That's the part that matters.
Exactly.
And remind everybody of the website and the phone numbers one more time.
www.joinbaltimorecountypd.com. That is the recruitment website with testimonies, information about our process, salaries, and benefits. If you want to get in contact directly with us, you can give us a call at the office, 410-887-5542. Once again, 410-887-5542. And, hey, if you're more the email type, email us at recruiter@BaltimoreCountyMD.gov. Once again, that's the word recruiter at BaltimoreCountyMD.gov.
Robbie, it's always good to see you, brother.
No,
Thank you for coming in and hanging out with us this morning.
Always a good time.
Corporal Robbie Wright, the Baltimore County Police Department, hanging out with us here on GCR. When we come back in, almost as big of a deal as Robbie Wright. Cal Ripken Jr. They're so close, right? They're very close. Cal joins us next. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GlennClark23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
What's up, everyone? It's Tyus Bowser, and I've had so much fun hanging out with Rita and putting up with Glenn the last couple years that I've decided to do it again. Season 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show is happening this year, as we'll be all over town, giving you the chance to get to know me and some of my teammates. As we talk football, life in general, and just say what needs to be said. You can find out more about the show by going to PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. If you don't live in the area, you can watch the shows live on Facebook and YouTube. And if you miss one, you can listen Friday nights at 105.7 The Fan. So we'll see you all season long for the Tyus Bowser Show, a partnership of PressBox and Great Ace Memorabilia.
The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, October 3rd at Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North. It's brought to you by Superbook Sports. And don't forget, if you or a loved one has a gambling problem, visit helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Picking a restaurant to try for the first time? Let's look at the Costas Inn. Here's a few checklist items. Quality of the food? Check. Quality of service? Check. Does restaurant have plenty of free parking? Check. And finally, does restaurant have delicious steamed crabs, crab cakes, crab soup, and specials galore? Check, check, check. Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They check all the boxes.
Visit Harford County this fall. Celebrate Arts Across Harford September 15th through the 30th with dance, theater, music, and visual arts. September 29th through October 1st is the largest Italian festival in Maryland, featuring entertainment, cooking demonstrations, a bocce tournament, and family fun. If you're headed to the Maryland 5-Star, stay and play in Harford County. While you're there, enjoy the scenic views atop the King and Queen seats and experience pumpkin patches, corn mazes, and fall brews along their Harford Libation Trail. For more info, head to visitharford.com. Maryland open.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis. AJMichaels.com.
The Baltimore County Police Department is now hiring with competitive salaries, including for experienced police officers, starting salaries between over $68,000 and over $82,000 based on your prior service time, accepting up to 7 years of service times with only 6 weeks in the academy, minimum of 2 years prior experience. And police cadet starting salaries at over $32,000 must be between the ages of 18 and 20, but you can apply starting at 17 and a half. Must have a high school diploma or GED equivalent at the time of the hire, U.S. citizen at the time of the hire, and a valid driver's license. So if you have a passion for service and want a career for life, now is the time to join the Baltimore County Police Department. Call 410-887-5542 or visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Sure, Glenn may be in his 40s now, but he looks just as good as he ever has, and he's still as sharp as he ever was. And I say both those things without even a shred of irony. Find out for yourself right now by watching the show at facebook.com/PressBoxSports or youtube.com/PressBoxOnline.
All right, back in here on GC. KCR as we continue along on a Tuesday edition of the program. Thanks again to Corporal Robbie Wright for stopping by from the Baltimore County Police Department. Griffin, you want to let everybody know what's going on at Live Casino and Hotel these days?
Yeah, they got a second chance drawing coming up. Maybe luck wasn't on your side in a recent bet at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino in Hotel, Maryland. Well, get ready to turn those losses into winning opportunities with the second chance to win promotion. Between now and January 4th, 2024, all Live Casino and Hotel Maryland Rewards members will be able to enter their losing bet slips into the second chance to win drum. And 2 nights a week, 20 different winners will be chosen. Prizes range from Live Casino and Hotel Maryland apparel, sports and social ultimate happy hour prizes, cash, and free play worth up to $500. So drawings will be held every Thursday and Monday at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino in Hotel Maryland. Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Very good. Not a lot that we learned from John Harbaugh's press conference yesterday. Again, if you want encouragement, it's on the injury front after there were another new slew of names that popped up on Sunday as far as injury concerns. Nothing that came out of yesterday that made it seem like any of those are particularly long-term concerns. Duron Harmon was signed off the Ravens practice squad this morning. Jeff Zrebiec mentioned on Twitter that he thought that Duron Harmon might end up being in the Ravens 53-man plans because of Darryl Worley being banged up. But there's kind of an issue that the Ravens have going on right now. We talked to Melvin Gordon on the show yesterday, and afterwards, Griffin and I were having this conversation. Like, I didn't even realize, and so it's my apologies I didn't realize it, that Sunday was the third time that they had used Melvin Gordon in all 3 games as a practice squad elevation. So they would have to put him on the 53-man roster this week. And it seems like the assumption is that they will put Melvin Gordon on the 53-man roster this week. I remember we felt away at the end of training camp. We were like, well, there's no way that Melvin Gordon could be on the roster over Keaton Mitchell. And they, of course, put Keaton Mitchell on the initial 53-man roster and didn't put Melvin Gordon on the initial 53-man roster, only for Keaton Mitchell to then go to IR and Melvin Gordon to end up being put on the roster via the practice squad. So they're in a bind with roster decisions that are going to need to be made, particularly if Tyus Bowser, Marlon Humphrey are ready to return. If they are, then they're in a real crunch roster-wise. If they're not, then that kind of gets delayed a little bit. But, like, not knowing exactly where some of these guys are, the Ravens have to maneuver a bunch of different things. They might end up having to put someone on IR that they didn't want to put on IR, and that they were hoping they could get back somewhat quickly. And I'm not just throwing out names like Rashad Bateman. I don't think they want to do that, but this is the bind that they're in. They've got a roster problem because of all of the injuries. John Harbaugh said it's possible that both Keaton Mitchell and Tyus Bowser could return to practice this week. So, again, that's positive news. Tyus Bowser will talk to us about it tonight. We'll be at Guilford Hall Brewery with Tyus and special guest Justice Hill this evening, and we'll ask him, and he'll say, yeah, I might, or something like that. Like, that's just the way that it probably will go. But there will inevitably be roster decisions that will have to be made by the Ravens this week because of all of the various issues that they are facing. And we will see what those decisions end up being. But they're going to be in a bind. The only good news is that it doesn't seem like any of the stuff from Sunday looks like it's going to be long-term or season-ending or anything along those lines. That's what we learned from John Harbaugh's press conference yesterday. All right. I never take it for granted whenever I have an opportunity to catch up with our next guest. He is obviously an icon in our city and throughout the sport of baseball. And on top of that, he has been a friend. And as a kid who grew up here and hearing him talk about Brooks yesterday, I'm thinking, that's the way that I thought about you. And yet he has always been good to us. He, of course, is the Hall of Famer and the icon himself. one Cal Ripken Jr. is with us this morning here on GCR. Cal, it's Glenn. Always appreciate you taking the time for us, sir. Thanks for spending a couple of minutes this morning.
Hey, Glenn, it's my pleasure. It's we're talking about Oriole baseball right now, so it's a really fun subject.
It is. We have waited for times like these. There's no doubt about it. Cal, before we talk about the team, as I referenced, I think so many people were moved by your words, and I know it's not easy for someone of your stature to share their emotions so openly and to be vulnerable in a situation like that, but you moved so many people talking about Brooks yesterday. I know what a relationship you guys had over the years, and look, with Brooks, it's not unique, right? Like, he didn't care if you were Cal Ripken or if you were, Joe Schmo from Dundalk. He was willing to be like that. But can you possibly explain what it meant to you to be up on that stage talking about your friend that way?
Yeah, I mean, at first, you sit down and go, there's so much you can pull from, to talk, and you can't do that. And my goal was to try to have something simple that had meaning, and really, he was I started out by saying he was my, but he was my boyhood idol, and I think I was attracted towards him at first because of the exciting way that he played the game, and the Orioles were good and they were winning all the time, and it was fun. But I think my parents, and as I said in my remarks, is my parents pointed him out to me for all the other reasons, about how he represented the city, how he handled himself, how he treated people, and that's what I really wanted to explain. But I think everybody already knew that, just as you said, is that I never, and I sat next to his son Brooks yesterday, and I whispered over at one point, I go, I never knew anybody that ever said a bad word about Brooksy. I said, somebody had to make him mad, or he had to make somebody mad or something. And Brooks just said, no, I don't know of anybody. And he said, probably one of the great traits that was interesting to me was he said that he forgives everybody very quickly. And I was thinking, I never heard that before. But it's a wonderful trait, and anyway, I just wanted to talk about what a great person he was and how it impacted on all of us kids growing up, that we had somebody like that to model ourselves after.
Cal, I had a conversation with Bobby Grich last week that really moved me because Bobby, who we know had an unbelievable career, right? Like, there's an argument for him as a Hall of Famer. Bobby said, I learned I am not this player if not for Brooks Robinson, right? Like, I am not. I would never have become this guy if I hadn't learned the things that I learned from Brooks. As you referenced, of course, you never played with Brooks. But I wonder how much you learned about being this type of public figure, your reputation of always signing autographs and going above and beyond. I wonder how much of what you learned about being, and I don't know that I'm sure you're going to say I'm not comfortable calling myself an icon, but you are, right? Like, you are a larger-than-life figure in our city, and yet you've been available constantly. I wonder how much of that you learned and patterned after the example that you had in Brooks Robinson.
So, I mean, I did reference that I would have loved to have been Brooks' teammate, and for the same reasons that Bobby Grich talked about it, and I hear Eddie talk about the impact just in that 1 year that Brooksy had on him. And so when you're with somebody each and every day and you're playing with them, you can learn directly. But I think a lot of my learning through baseball was indirectly, and maybe learning how to handle myself. The model that I had was right in front of me as Brooksy, but I had my parents talking about that. I had other people referencing Brooksy, and I also said that I was able to play. I was extremely proud of playing in Baltimore for all these years, my whole career. And especially that one is that, even though you go through, it would have been easy going through rebuilding years, having them fire my dad, and taking a different view of that. But I always thought it was the right thing. Brooksy came in from another state, from Little Rock, and the city grabbed a hold of him. He grabbed a hold of the city, and it was like that was his place. I grew up here, and so watching Brooksy, interact with everyone through thick and thin, and being stable, and everybody could root for him, and especially me. That was something I learned. I would say directly from Brooksy, just watching, how he handled himself. But I picked up on a lot of things from that good baseball people. My dad said, and I would have loved to have that interaction as a teammate with Brooksy.
Man, it's so special to hear you talk about him. It's just incredible, and what an impact, and what a man that impacted all of us. But to know that it impacted you that way is particularly powerful. Cal Ripken Jr., of course, is with us here on GCR. Cal, as everybody alluded to yesterday, this special opportunity. I was blown away by how many Orioles players were there yesterday. I think it speaks to what's going on with this group, that they recognized how important that was, and that they are vibing with this community. We celebrated, of course, the 40th anniversary of your guys' run to the 1983 World Series just over a month ago, and what a neat weekend that was. But I wonder if there's anything. You were so young, and I think a lot of people have brought up that maybe this team simply doesn't know any better, right? Like that they don't know they're not supposed to be the favorites to win the American League. They don't know that they're supposed. Do you sense anything in this group that like kind of reminds you of how you felt back in 1983?
Well, I was just turned 23 in the middle of that year, and it was all new to me. First year we went to the last day of the season, lost to Milwaukee, and one of the most exciting series that I played in. And then the next year to turn it around with the same team, get off to a good start, and then win the whole thing. I thought that was going to happen every year. But I think you're onto something when it's not that you don't know you're not supposed to, but you don't know what's beyond. What are the playoffs about? I mean, Aaron Hicks yesterday, I got a chance to talk to him, and I go, "You're one of the few guys that have a little experience in postseason." And he goes, "Yeah, I have quite a bit." And he says, "We have a couple other guys." And I said, my advice would be, don't do anything different. Just keep playing the game. Approach the game the same way that you have. It feels like everybody makes a bigger deal out of it, and there's a lot more hype. And if you allow yourself to think, "Wow, we're being watched by everybody in the world," and all that kind of stuff, you might think it's different. But when you catch your first ground ball, or catch your first fly ball, or have your first at bat, you realize it's the same game. So the struggle sometimes is within yourself. Stay right where you are. Keep focusing. This team right here focuses on every pitch. They have good at bats. They string at bats together. They execute really well in the field. They run the bases aggressively. There's a lot that they're doing on a daily basis. And my advice would be, don't do anything different. It's not who wants to win the most at this level. It's who plays the best. And you got to continue to execute. And this team executes. They're calm in one-run games. I would have liked to still see Batista being in the back of the bullpen, because I think he helps solidify and make everybody else better. But the Orioles have found guys that have really good stuff that have performed in that role, and so that's encouraging to me. But don't do anything different. It's the playoffs, and it's what you play for. It's exciting. Your adrenaline's going to naturally be pushed up, but don't change the way you play and the way you compete. That's going to give you a chance to win it all.
I feel like you're alluding to something there, Cal, that like we've all dealt with at some point this season, which is we know how good this baseball team is, but we don't know exactly why they're so good, right? It's not like they're loaded with 300 hitters or guys that are bashing 30 home runs. I don't know how to define it. And can you define what it is that has made this team so good? Because I think what you just said about how they handle the moment is the best possible thing that I'm able to come up with.
Yeah, I mean, there is an intangible called chemistry, and this team really likes each other. There's no cliques on the team and all that. At least it doesn't appear that way from my standpoint. They really like each other. Everyone contributes. Everyone is open-minded to different roles that they have played, and they grab a hold of it. So the focus is right where it should be. And when you play for a winner, and since I played for a winner and I played for some really tough years, what was I going to say? Oh, it's easier when you play for a winning team, because you come to the ballpark with the attitude is, what can I do today to help us win?
Sure.
And that's the way you should play the game. Now, it gets complicated when you lose and you start to think about, you got to get your hits, or you got to drive in some runs, or you got to do something else. Some other things start to creep in. But this team comes to the ballpark, and if you do make that little contribution, if you do, Ryan O'Hearn bunting a guy over, had his first sacrifice bunt, at least it was reported that it was, and the look on his face, like, I did it, I contributed, and that pushes, that gets runs scored. I can tell you, a ground ball to second base when you're on a winning team with a guy on second base and no outs, and then Eddie drives him in, behind you, that makes you feel like you drove the run in. So that intangible, though, the chemistry, the really liking each other, and then playing the game, I think, the way it's supposed to be played. I don't know why they're so calm. I think that they've played a number of one-run games, and you learn that when you win those one-run games and things turn out all right, there's a confidence that develops. And I think that's a really important stat, or the important, stat in the way that when you get to the playoffs, you're going to play tight games. You're going to have stressful moments, and you want to be able to control yourselves in those moments. And I have no doubt that this team right here has learned as the season has gone on that not only can they play in those one-run games, or they can come from behind, but they can hold on and they can win them. And so that's a really good trait for a team going into the playoffs.
Cal, acknowledging that you're not on the team, right? That as much as you're there, and as many times as we've seen you at the ballpark, you're not in the clubhouse every day. But what you allude to, that chemistry, how much credit do you feel like has to go to Brandon Hyde for that? Because I know it's difficult to measure exactly what a manager does for a team. And when you guys won the World Series, right, it was with a first-year manager in Joe Altobelli, albeit one that you guys have been around for a little bit. But, how much credit do you feel like we have to give to Brandon Hyde? There's no way that you can have a team with this much chemistry without the manager playing, I feel like, at least a sizable role in that, right?
Well, absolutely. So you mentioned we got Joe Altobelli, but the team was really shaped by Earl Weaver the year before.
Mm-hmm.
And the greatest thing that Joe did, and he was smart to do this, was just allow it to happen. Just let the train continue to go down the tracks. And so if you look at Earl might have shaped the team, but then Joe managed the team. He had an instrumental role in guiding the team to winning. When you look at Brandon, you got to keep in mind that he shaped the talent of the team. The talent was coming in. The Orioles have done a good job of identifying talent, and Mike Elias has done a good job of providing the talent. But it's Hyde's role to shape that talent, and kind of bring them along. So his role probably has changed because he was in a developmental mold, so to get people, playing at the big league level. And then once you get them playing at the big league level, then it becomes all about the strategy to win. And I've been really impressed with the way that he's handled the bullpen, the way he's handled the staff. A lot of times you want to get a pitcher going. Sometimes you want to push him a little bit further for his own benefit, but sometimes you got to protect him. And it seems to me that that is being done, on a daily basis, and it's got to be the manager.
All right, in just another minute or two here with Cal Ripken Jr. on GCR. Cal, I'm trying to make sure I have this correct. Do I remember hearing Gunnar Henderson talk about a conversation that he had with you the weekend that you all were there together for the '83 celebration?
Yeah, I mean, I've been wanting to meet him, but I don't want to intervene either. But I was in the clubhouse for the celebration. I had an opportunity to sit and talk to Gunnar for a minute. Really enjoyed that conversation. Which could lead to many deeper conversations about playing shortstop, which I'll look forward to in the future. But I left there thinking, good, smart kid, big, strong, fast. I mean, it's interesting. I think he had 11 triples this year, didn't he?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yes.
He runs, he's not satisfied with a double. So his style of play is he leaves home plate on a gapper, thinking he's got 3.
Yeah.
which is a really good indicator of how he plays the game. I really enjoyed talking to him. I wish I could have talked to him a little bit more. We were kind of limited, for the festivities, but and he had to get ready for the game. But I had a nice conversation with him.
It was 9, but I say we go ahead and make it 11 because Cal Ripken said so. So that's the way that our math works here in Baltimore. But I bring it up, Cal, because I just wonder, we are getting carried away about what we think this young man might be. To your point about what we've already seen, it's overwhelming. Is there any danger in us believing that this might be a truly generational superstar that we're watching, or do you see those same things and say there's no reason this young man might be one of the best players in baseball for the next 10 to 15 years?
Well, I mean, I see a great, talented player that is in the early part of his development. You know, he's going to get better, and sometimes that's hard to believe. He has a high ceiling. To what extent that means, there's always going to be adjustments and always things that you're going to try to make and you want to learn. But he seems to be that kind of player that can roll into a perennial all-star and then have a career that's big and long.
He is a special breed, man. He is a really special talent, and it is a lot of fun to watch him play. And Cal, we can't wrap. I want to make sure. I know a couple years ago you had a little bit of a health scare. I just want to make sure you encouraged me to go get a physical unknowingly, and I made that decision. I'm 40 now. I got to take care of myself. Everything good in that department?
Yeah, everything's fine. I mean, and I'm glad. For us men sometimes feel like that you only go to the doctor when you need it.
Yep.
But you got to go. You got to get your yearly physical. As a baseball player, we always got it because you went to spring training and you always got all the best medical care. But when you stop playing, or for people that aren't part of a team, you got to make those arrangements yourself. And it's really important that you go. And so, yeah, I caught my prostate cancer early. The doctor caught it early, and you have tons of options. And my life hasn't changed a bit. It's great, and I'm doing very well. But it does make you realize that, with all the great medicine out there, you need to take advantage of it. And if something's going to happen to you, you want to catch it early.
I'm so glad. It's something that I needed. Much like when I was a kid and I needed somebody to remind me to drink milk. It was Cal Ripken who reminded me that I needed to go get a physical. And I'm not ashamed to say that out loud. I assume we're probably going to be seeing you at the ballpark a good bit. We've seen you so much this season, I imagine.
I'm going to be out of the country, for a little while, and so I'll have to look closer at the schedule. But yeah, I'm planning on going to many playoff games.
Well, we look forward to seeing you out there. It's been fun getting to know and working with Ryan the last couple of years, too. That's been an awful lot of fun for me, and really appreciate, as always, you taking the time for us, Cal Ripken. And truly, what I said at the beginning, I think your words yesterday were inspiring to a lot of people, and being willing to show your vulnerability. That takes a lot for someone like you to be able to do that, and it was greatly appreciated by all of us here in this city. Always.
Yeah, I was honored to be there. Thank you.
Always appreciate taking the time for us. Thank you so much for doing this, Cal.
Okay, Glenn. See you, man.
Cal Ripken Jr. with us here on GCR. I say it every time, and I say it about a lot of people. I'm not trying to make Ian Eagle and Kevin Harlan out to be Cal Ripken. Like, I understand they're not the same. But the people that have just been overwhelmingly kind and good to me over the years, Cal Ripken is extraordinarily high on that list. And you'll never know what that, like, when I walk away and I get jaded by things that we deal with in this business, then I sit down and I'm like, my God, I have been able to, like, get to know Cal Ripken over the years. Holy F, how lucky am I, right? Like, so next time I'm complaining about something, I'm going through it, remind me of that.
All right, I will.
Just pass that back along to me. Say, hey, Glenn, remember, Cal Ripken just took 15 minutes out of his day to call you on Tuesday. Like, oh, right. Yeah. Okay, sorry. My bad, everybody. My bad. Life's good. I really, like, seeing Cal get emotional like that. I talk about this. Remember what Michael Jordan said at Kobe Bryant's funeral? I thought it was one of the most powerful things. I thought there was a genuine argument in 2020 that Michael Jordan should have been SI Sports Person of the Year. Because remember, we all spent the pandemic watching Michael Jordan, right? Yeah. Like, it was the thing that got us through. And then combine that with his a man of that level being willing to be so vulnerable it's so easy for someone like that, and Palmer too, when he spoke last week, right, on the Masson broadcast. It would be so easy for them to say, I am going to repeat this time and time and time again to the point where the words don't have any meaning for me anymore, because I don't want to have people see me break down in front of, everyone. It would be easy for someone of Cal Ripken's stature, Michael Jordan's stature, to do that. For them to instead be willing to say, look, I might break up, I might, end up crying in front of everyone and doing it anyway, we as men need to be willing to see that and to understand it's okay. We need to be able to talk about these things and what people mean to us without being embarrassed or ashamed of what that means. I talk all the time now. I'm a softie anymore. Like, I'm the softest human being alive ever since I became a father. I was never a particularly hard ass, right? But becoming a father ruined me. I get emotional about all sorts of stuff. I got emotional last week talking about my dad and what Brooks Robinson means to my dad, and the fact that the only piece of memorabilia that I have in my house is this autographed, Brooks Robinson poster that my dad, when I was a child, wanted me to have. So I get emotional talking about it, and that's okay. It's okay. I don't want to be emotional about everything. I don't want to start crying talking about, the Ravens beating the Browns.
Well, that might be worth it.
No. No.
If you think it is, it is.
That's a football game. But Cal Ripken being willing to put himself out there like that, I think it's something that a lot of people in our community, and much in the same way that, I say I took my cues, I straight shoot got a physical because Cal Ripken told us he had cancer. That's not a joke. That's not I had not been to a doctor for just a checkup in over a decade. Cal Ripken said, you guys need to go get a physical. Men, you need to go to the doctor. And I said, well, Cal Ripken says so. And that should be embarrassing, but that's the way that we revered Cal Ripken. When I was a kid, I drank milk because Cal Ripken told us to drink milk. It's what it is, man. Don't judge me. And I appreciate that he showed that example and said, when you're talking about someone you love, it's okay to be emotional about it. It's okay. A lot of us struggle with grief, man. I had never known the pain of grief until my childhood best friend passed away when, I was in my mid-30s. It's not supposed to happen. And I have struggled mightily with grief since then. And I appreciate that let's not shame people. Let's talk about it. Let's be open and honest about our emotions. Again, doesn't need to be over the top. Doesn't need to be crying in the club because your football team lost a game. Like that's a different level to it. But reasonable levels of emotions, there's no reason why Cal Ripken shouldn't be able to show that. And I'm not trying to obsess over it. I've probably gone too far. But I appreciated it. I really did. I thought it was one of the most moving. I thought Brooks's grandkids yesterday were, God. I started getting emotional all over again with Brooks's grandkids and talking about Papa. Man, that was something. That really was something. It was, and as I said yesterday, I thought it hit all the right notes. I thought yesterday's event hit all the right notes. And I appreciate the Cal's not telling us to. I think that he was guarded in the way he described Gunnar Henderson. Like, I'm not going to tell you that he's going to be a 10-time MVP and a first ballot Hall of Famer. But, at this point where he is in this process, every reason to be this level of excited about him. And if I'm Gunnar Henderson and Cal Ripken says I'm open to having more prolonged conversations, I would say you name the time and the place. Right? Like, you name the time and the place. Wherever it is, I will meet you any moment of any day that you are willing to spend time with me and to talk about like what you see and how I continue my progression as a baseball player. I mean, that is a resource that, we talk about how much Jackson Holliday has had advantages in his career, right? Because he's had not only his dad, but, he's told us, like, his dad brings over all of these baseball legends, and they basically, like, live at the house for a little while and train with him. And so Jackson's just had this, almost ungodly advantage because of it. Well, this is a pretty sizable advantage that Gunnar Henderson could have, of having the ear of Cal Ripken Jr. for the next years to come as he's here in Baltimore. Great stuff. Always appreciate the Ironman taking time for us. We can wait and take the break after our final segment of the show. If you would prefer to do that, I would be quite all right with it. Reminder that Project Game Day returns this Sunday. Rita and myself and a cast of special guests all throughout the course of the season. It was great to have Femi Ayanbadejo this past week. Vontae Leach has been involved, and we're going to keep that going throughout the course of the year with Project Game Day. You can watch it live, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline, or PressBoxOnline.com/video. Sorry, PressBoxOnline.com/GameDay. Make sure I get that right. Those are the ways that you can watch the show live immediately following every Ravens game this season. It's all brought to you by Superbook Sports and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. Project Game Day, every game day this year. Come join us immediately following every Ravens game. All right. It's Tuesday. Every Tuesday this season, we try to set out the next week and decisions that we might need to make and how we can improve our team and our circumstances in fantasy football. And joining us now, he is PressBox, a fantasy football analyst, brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. Our friend Mr. Joe Serpico back with us to preview Waiver-Wire Wednesday. Joe, it's good to talk to you, bud. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Absolutely, and I'll start this show the same way as last time. Only two teams are still 4-0 now in our PressBox league.
How about that? Yeah, tough week for old Griffin Bass. Tough week for GB.
One of the worst fantasy performances I think I've ever
Not
had.
a great showing
in my life.
from Team Griffin this past week. So he needs a little bit of help because he put up, although nice, 69 points this week. 69 points from Griffin's team as he suffered his second setback of the season, and I improved to 4-0. I feel like, and I talked about this at the beginning of the show, I feel like the waiver wire itself, not particularly a large story this week. We can get to some names in a minute, but I feel like the stories this week in fantasy football are kind of unrelated to the waiver wire. Obviously, the story of stories is Jonathan Taylor, and so I just want to get generically from you, where are you at? Like, if Jonathan Taylor practices this week and they announce on Friday that he's going to play, where would you rank him? Is he immediately must play? Do you say, like, hey, maybe you wait a week and just see exactly how much they want to ramp him up? And, like, where are you at with Jonathan Taylor if he plays on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it a couple times this year. I was always under the impression that we wouldn't get to this stage, that by the time that he came back from his injury, that he would be left off the Colts. Yep. And this kind of leaves you in a little bit of a predicament because Zach Moss has played pretty well. Jonathan Taylor, has been arguably one of the best running backs in the league since he's been drafted. So as far as for fantasy goes, I think I am on that boat of say, let's wait a week. Let's see if that ankle really is okay. Now, if you're like me, I don't really know if there was an ankle injury there. I think that was a byproduct of kind of the circumstances this offseason. But I think it's also a little bit too hard for them to just write off Zach Moss right now. So I think it'll be maybe not a 50-50 split, but I'm kind of holding out to see what happens there. And in the case of Moss, I am definitely still holding on to him, even if Taylor's around for a little bit. And then, again, hopefully he's traded.
Where would you rank Jonathan Taylor, like, this week if he plays?
I'm saying somewhere in the, let's say, the 20 to 25, 30 range, somewhere around there, because again, I'm not expecting him to take on a full workload right away. I will trust guys that will we know are going to be established in their roles. Now, there's not a whole lot of them this year. I talked about it last week. Running backs this year outside of CMAC have been a little bit off, but yeah, I would still kind of hold out hope that that's a trade for him. if you're an owner of Moss or Taylor, to be frank, and then kind of hope from there that they kind of both take off.
So for what it's worth, like in a league where maybe you had all up, God, I have embarrassment of riches in this league. Christian McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs, and Devin Achane, you're probably not playing Jonathan Taylor this week.
Over those guys, no. Like I said, just because those guys you just mentioned, they have feature roles. I think Achane at this point might be the lead back in Miami. I think he took over that job kind of quickly, which was a little bit surprising. He played 66% of the snaps this past week, which is awesome, especially after Mostert did next to nothing, and then you got Jeff Wilson coming back soon too. So of all the four guys you mentioned, I know Taylor going into the season was like a preseason top 15 pick, but until we kind of see how things shake out there, you kind of got to rely on those other three guys.
But I'm presuming that I would probably play him in like our league, where my options would be at the flex Romeo Doubs, for example, or Adam Thielen, or Isaiah Pacheco. I'm probably playing him in that league.
Oof, you're really testing me here. I really like what I've seen from Dobbs as of late. He's somebody I have listed in waiver wires this week because he's inexcusably owned in less than 50% of leagues. I don't understand why. He was a top 10 receiver going into last week. After week 4, he's still a top 20 receiver. So I don't understand that. And especially in our league, which is PPR, I think I do value Dobbs a little bit more. You will have to run by me the other two names there. But honestly, I think it will just kind of remembering, I still think I'm kind of holding out more hope on a Thielen, who's got a ton of targets, and I can't remember what the last
Pacheco was the other one.
But I'm still – say it again.
Pacheco.
And see, he's another one that's – I've liked what I've seen from him thus far this year. So it's just kind of – I'm still in wait-and-see mode with the Colts right now, just because, like, you just don't know what they're going to do with this week. And then on top of that, I mean, the guy who gets the most rushing touchdowns for them, let's face it, is going to be Anthony Richardson.
Well, that might be true, too. There is something to be said for that. But I still think that, like, this is Jonathan Taylor that we're talking about, and it kind of is what it is. Let's have the conversation about Jameson Williams. Let's have that conversation. And I feel like if you're in a league that has an IR spot, he was probably owned in most of those leagues. If you don't have one, he might be available. Where you at with how you go after Jameson Williams this week?
Yeah, I think he's somebody who is a must-add. The Lions have hit on all of their early picks in the past couple of years, and Jameson Williams might be the most talented of them all. We haven't gotten to see that yet just because of the injuries and the suspension. This change in the rules is the only reason he's allowed back. And yes, you're correct. If you were able to stash him, that's great. But if he's still out there available for you, he immediately becomes the Lions wide receiver 2. I'm not crazy about Josh Reynolds or Marvin Jones or Raymond there. I think Williams becomes that guy. Now, am I starting him this week? No, I'm kind of similar with Taylor. I'm kind of waiting it out a week or so, see how things play out from there. But once he gets truly acclimated to the offense, Williams is a guy I think could have wide receiver 2 potential. The Lions are, let's face it, they're one of the better offenses in the league right now. They're going to throw it a ton. I like what I've seen from them all around, too. Even David Montgomery, the pass game, the run game. I think the Lions are just one of those teams you want to get as much stock into as you can.
I get it. They have that type of excitement. Unfortunately, Jameson Williams, even in the league where I don't have an IR spot, is not available for me. And then in our league, I believe Griffin has
I do,
so
yeah. So I got some decisions to make this week,
not available there. All right, let's go to the actual waiver wire. I'll start at running back. I feel like McLaughlin is probably the most interesting name. Is that one that you're really considering for waiver wire reasons, or maybe a stash later in the week?
Yeah, I listed him just because, honestly, it is a light week for waiver wire purposes, especially at the running back position. The injury to Javonte Williams, I believe it was a hip injury, knocked him out this past Sunday, and it was McLaughlin who stepped up, but not Samaje Perine. So that's something to keep an eye on, but it sounds like Williams kind of dodged a big injury. Might be just a week or two that he misses. So I'm not going overly crazy to add McLaughlin to my team. Honestly, based on how your running back situation is, he is probably somebody I'm hoping to pick up after the waiver period as opposed to putting in a waiver claim. Just involved. I think it's going to be more of a 50-50 split than we saw this past Sunday. I just think McLaughlin was the one that took advantage of the touches. We can see it flip-flop this week.
If you're a Javonte Williams owner, should you be putting a waiver claim in for him?
I guess yes, if you are in the need to play him. If you're somebody who's, again, weak at running back and Williams was your best option and you need to play that spot, yeah. But he's still going to be probably like a running back 4 for me this week, just because I still expect it to be a 50-50 timeshare with P. Ryan, even though we saw him be the higher player this week. I don't think this is a case of like what we saw a couple weeks ago with Hodgkin, where he's going to take over the job. I think you're going to see more 50-50 in Denver.
He is PressBox fantasy football analyst Joe Serpico. He is with us here on GCR, brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. Joe, let me move. I'm assuming I saw you had Tyjae Spears on your waiver wire write-up, but is that really just more like a let's acknowledge him, but probably not actually thinking about him for a waiver wire reason?
Pretty much, yeah. Like I said before, it's just been a light week for waivers, at least for the running backs this week. And Spears was somebody, again, like you just said, just to acknowledge him. He is getting a lot more touches than many people think. Derrick Henry has 133 touches. Spears has 120. That's almost I'm not that good at math, but that's almost a 50-50 split right there. And Spears is on the field a lot because of his receiving work. And let's face it, we might be seeing the downfall of Derrick Henry. He's just looked slow so far this year. Henry's still going to get all those running back touches, yes, but Spears is one of those like handcuff guys you can really keep an eye on, say anything were to happen to Henry.
Once again, I am still looking for answers at tight end, as I guess I'm going to be all season. Is Jonnu Smith someone that we should really be considering, Joe?
Let me start by saying I don't understand what the Falcons are doing with Kyle Pitts. You have this generational talent at the position there, and now it's Jonnu Smith who's getting more targets to him, who's supposed to be basically his backup there. Am I going crazy to get Jonnu Smith? No, because I still think that in the grand scheme of things, they want Pitts to be more involved. I know that Jonnu right now is tight end 10, I believe, which is wild because that should be Kyle Pitts when you really think about it. But no, I'm not going crazy to add Jonnu Smith. Honestly, this week I thought was another one of those weird weeks for even tight ends. It's kind of hard to kind of pinpoint a tight end to even go after this week. I put Cole Kmet in this week just because it was more of I saw him being dropped just because he was off to a slow start. But as far as like a guy to really find a tight end this week, it's really a little rough split. And the whole position as a whole, again, this year, even Travis Kelce hasn't gone off to the monster start that we're used to seeing, especially to garner a first-round pick.
Yeah, it's this is the reason why y'all can make fun of me all you want. I'm going early on tight end because I'm not going to be in hell like you are anymore. That's the reality of the circumstances. By the way, this is the final week. Griffin, you want to tell everybody about we're trying to hook everybody up with their opportunity to get personalized fantasy advice from Joe Serpico. But these are the last few days for you to sign up for this contest.
Yes, indeed. If you're like me and your kicker was your best, was your highest scoring player this week, then this is the contest for you. PressBox and Live Casino and Hotel. They have the answer. One lucky winner will receive a private fantasy football consultation with our very own fantasy football expert, Joe Serpico, here with us, with ongoing help throughout the season, including advice on starts and sits, trades, and waiver wire pickups, plus a VIP game day experience at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland Sports and Social with a reserve table and $200 worth of food and beverage credit. Again, $200 worth of food and beverage credit. To enter, go to PressBoxOnline.com/contest. That's PressBoxOnline.com/contest. Again, PressBoxOnline.com/contest. Must be 21 or older to enter. Complete rules are available at PressBoxOnline.com/contest.
All right, let's talk about one of the guys that is featured in your Waiver-Wire Wednesday report this week and that you and I have brought up in past weeks, but I am starting to come around on. In that league where I'm very excited about my running backs, my quarterbacks are Trevor Lawrence and Matt Stafford. And neither one of them is dreadful, but neither one of them has been particularly explosive this season.
I think I'm in far more because I have Daniel Jones and Joe Burrow right
now.
now.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So you keep bringing up C.J. Stroud. And I look and I see C.J. Stroud. And you can't get me to get excited about any of the other names. You can't get me to get excited about picking up, Josh Dobbs, because I just don't know what's going to happen there with Kyler Murray and any of that. And you can't get me to get excited about Zach Wilson because, I'm breathing. You can't get me to get excited about Sam Howell. But I'm buying in on C.J. Stroud a little bit. And I'm thinking to myself, C.J. Stroud might be a good addition to my team. So tell me, am I at the place where I'd actually, let's just say I were to put in a waiver claim this week. And it would be a good week to do it because I moved to the bottom of the bunch after I got my claim in for Achane last week, right? So, it wouldn't really hurt me to just go ahead and put another claim in this week. I'm already at the bottom. If I get him, I get him, so what? But if I were to put a claim in for Stroud this week, am I actually playing him over those guys? Am I really just letting one of those guys go from my roster altogether in favor of Stroud at this point? What am I, if those are my options, what am I doing here?
I think this is a good week to bench Lawrence, considering they're playing the Bills. I think we need to talk about the Bills being maybe the best defense in the NFL right now, the way they are just swallowing teams up. I honestly would consider playing Stroud over Lawrence this week for reasons I just said. And they like Stroud a lot more than I actually thought. They're letting him throw it way more than I originally anticipated. I thought they would be more of a team that would rely on Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary. I thought that would be a real thing, considering D'Amico Ryans came from the 49ers background, so I kind of figured they would try to run the ball more. But Stroud's thrown it at least 30 times in each game. We've seen that he's got weapons at receiver. Nico Collins had a phenomenal game this weekend. Last week it was Tank Dell. Robert Woods is that savvy veteran that's getting all the first downs, the little things over the middle. So I like what I have seen from Stroud as of late. So, yeah, he is somebody that I'm definitely considering actually putting in lineups moving forward. As long as he's throwing for almost 300 yards a game, the Texans we've talked about, they're going to be trailing a lot this year. They're 2-2 right now, but they are still one of the worst rosters of the league. So I still anticipate them to throw the ball a ton, and Stroud's going to be a beneficiary, and I think the two other receivers I just mentioned will be as well.
So when I put this claim in, I can put it in to drop Matt Breida, right, which I think is a fairly safe thing to do moving forward. I don't feel anything about that. Plus, you saw what my running backs were in that league. So if I do that, right, and if I put the claim in to drop Breida, I still think I'm going to have to make another move this week because I'm going to have to put Jonathan Taylor on my active roster. Would you just be releasing Matt Stafford then at that point? Would you just be sending him back into the wild?
Yeah, considering, what the rest of the roster makeup you've got there. Yeah, I mean, at some point you got to cut your losses at some positions. Sometimes you do want to hold on to that one more guy, but let's face it, for fantasy purposes, you only have so much roster room. So if in that circumstance there, I feel much better about Lawrence and Stroud moving forward this year. I don't like Stafford's matchup this week against the Eagles.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, and definitely drop Breida. We talked about him, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? I just never thought he was going to be a thing, and I think Barkley, I think should be back any week now, if not next week probably. So, yeah, Breida I would let go. Stafford I would let go for those moves that you mentioned.
You mentioned Dobbs already, the other Dobbs, Romeo Dobbs, and Michael Wilson is the other name that I feel like has popped up at wide receiver, who I know is on your list this week. But are those legitimately waiver claims, or are those also perhaps Thursday moves?
Romeo Dobbs, I'm trying to get on my team. Like I said before, I just don't understand how he's available in 50% of leagues when he's a top 20 receiver. We heard about the hype between him and Jordan Love heading into the season to begin with, and it's kind of translated over now. A lot of people are going to turn around and say that's because Christian Watson missed time, and I totally get that. But I don't think that Dobbs is just going to be somebody that's going to be out of the picture once Watson's completely back, fully healthy in the offense. And I'm sorry, who was the other one you mentioned for me there?
Michael Wilson. Yep.
Michael Wilson is he's borderline. It's more of a situation. It kind of depends on how your wide receiver room plays out. If you think you can get him for free the following day, I would much rather go that route. But if your wide receiver room is a little light and you want to throw maybe $2-3 to get him on your team, he is the wide receiver too. A lot of people thought that was going to be Rondale Moore going into the year. but it's been Wilson who's seen more snaps as the number 2 receiver, and he's got 7 plays of 20-plus yards. I mean, he's just a downfield threat. He's a big guy. I just like what I've seen from him so far this year. But as far as waving some fab money on him, no, I'm more trying to pick him up the following period if I can, and then hope that he maybe becomes something again. Dobbs is. I do like Josh Dobbs. I don't know if we want to talk about him, but I do like his rushing rushing ability.
But what do you do about are you convinced that they're just gonna not ever play Kyler Murray again?
Well, there's the talk in Arizona that they might tank, for Caleb
I
Williams.
hear
so
you.
if that does play out, and then let's face it, I mean, Kyler Murray might be a guy that you can play the second half of the season if he does come back. But if you're a team that needs to win now, if you're, let's say, a 2-2 team or a 1-3 team, and you're desperate at quarterback, Dobbs is not a terrible guy because he's rushed for at least 40 yards the past 3 games, and it's not just him scrambling because Arizona's offensive line is not that good. They're designing plays for him, and he's got to throw an interception himself. So they're playing conservative with him. He's not doing anything to make mistakes. I like the rushing yardage, so that's why I'm not saying to start him over some of the big names, but if you're super hurting, especially we didn't even get to talk about it, there are teams on a bye this week. If you're absolutely in the need of a quarterback, Dobbs isn't a terrible option.
All right, Joe Serpico, of course, you can see all of his stuff. PressBoxOnline.com is where you check it out. Of course, at Joe Serp on Twitter is where you find him. And, again, these are the final days last week for you to get in, PressBoxOnline.com/contests. Joe Serpico, always appreciate you, man. We'll talk to you again next Tuesday, all right?
Absolutely. Take care, guys.
It's Joe Serpico, PressBox fantasy football analyst, brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. All right, winding down here for hour number 2 of the program. Today's show has also been brought to you by the print issue of PressBox. Final days of this print issue of PressBox. Lamar Jackson on the cover. Great cover story from Bo Smolka about Lamar in the contract era. If you have not picked it up, make sure you go get it now because it ain't going to be there forever. It'll be gone within the next couple of weeks and replaced by a new baseball-themed issue of PressBox. We'll wait a little bit to give you more of the details of that, but go get this one right now before it's gone. When we come back in, tidbit tubular. I do want to say one thing quickly about Trevor Bauer. I want to do that on the other side. But then tidbit and tubular as we wind down for a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Come for a game, stay for everything else. Book an unforgettable fall getaway in Charm City. Enjoy only in Baltimore festivals, mouthwatering eats, and endless entertainment. Treat yourself to a staycation in the heart of downtown, or try one of the city's many charming neighborhood hotels. And don't miss out on packages for free parking, breakfast, and more. Plan your stay at baltimore.org/hotels.
Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GlennClark23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal, too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
The Maryland 5-star returns to iconic Fair Hill October 19th to 22nd, marking the next chapter in Maryland's equestrian tradition. Best described as the triathlon of horse eventing, you won't want to miss this thrilling sport. Enjoy a fall festival with local fare, retail vendors, and tons of family fun. Come for the event and stay for the experience in Cecil County, home to the Chesapeake Bay waterfront with vibrant small towns and accommodations to suit every desire. It's the place to be in October. Visit Maryland5star.us for tickets.
What's up, everyone? It's Tyus Bowser, and I've had so much fun hanging out with Rita and putting up with Glenn the last couple years that I've decided to do it again. Season 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show is happening this year, as we'll be all over town, giving you the chance to get to know me and some of my teammates. As we talk football, life in general, and just say what needs to be said. You can find out more about the show by going to PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. If you don't live in the area, you can watch the shows live on Facebook and YouTube. And if you miss one, you can listen Friday nights at 105.7 The Fan. So we'll see you all season long for the Tyus Bowser Show, a partnership of PressBox and Great Ace Memorabilia.
The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, October 3rd at Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North. It's brought to you by Superbook Sports. And don't forget, if you or a loved one has a gambling problem, visit helpmygamblingproblem.org.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis. AJMichaels.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Make sure you're tuned in every Tuesday for PressBox fantasy football analyst Joe Serpico to get you ready for your Waiver-Wire Wednesday, brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. And if you have other fantasies you want fulfilled, subscribe to Glenn and Jeremy Kahn's OnlyFans page at... Wait, are people supposed to know about that?
Just heard from Joe Serpico this morning. How about that? How about the timing there? Today's show is also brought to you by the Baltimore County Police Department. You heard from Corporal Robbie Wright this morning. Wants to see you Saturday, October 28th at the Public Safety Building, 700 East Joppa Road in Towson for a hiring event, but it's also a community event, and it's important on both aspects. Corporal Wright, the Baltimore County Police Department have competitive salaries, great bonus packages available. It's a great opportunity for you if you're looking for a different career path, if you know someone who's struggling to launch maybe out of high school or college. It's a great direction for them with the Baltimore County Police Department. And on that date, you'll be able to go through the written test, the agility test, the application process, all of it. That's all there. So go, show up, and find out more at joinbaltimorecountypd.com in order to, get all of the I's dotted and the T's crossed and know everything that you're getting into before you get there. Go ahead and go to that website and get more information. But even if you're not, as Corporal Wright mentioned, it's just a great day for the community to come interact with the Baltimore County Police Department and a safe, friendly, fun way for your kids to get in their costumes and to walk around at a trunk-or-treat event and get some candy. So perfect day for all of those things. Saturday, October 28th, Public Safety Building in Towson for the Baltimore County Police Department. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on this topic, but there was a lot of hullabaloo on the internet yesterday about Trevor Bauer as the final lawsuit between he and an accuser was settled. And by settling it, he was allowed to speak publicly about it. And he put out a video, and I, like many of you, watched the video. And the evidence presented in the video certainly makes it seem like there was a little bit of a setup, right? And it led to a lot of people saying things like this. Trevor Bauer was a victim. Trevor Bauer deserves apologies. Trevor Bauer should sue Major League Baseball. Trevor Bauer should be signed tomorrow. In the America that Elon Musk wants, that's probably about right. In the world in which we present things with certain evidence and withhold other evidence, in the America in which we just read and react to the most recent thing that we've seen, that's the type of thing that we would say. In an America where we think we have to respond to everything because that's how social media works. We've got to have an opinion about everything. More realistically, let's talk about what we've learned. Based on the evidence presented, it would be hard to think that the young lady didn't go meet up with Trevor Bauer thinking to herself, I could profit from this somehow. It'd be hard to feel that way. What it doesn't, it certainly doesn't, it goes a long way to prove that no, this was not a non-consensual sexual encounter. But I don't think that's ever what was actually alleged. What was alleged was that the violence that occurred during it was non-consensual. And yesterday doesn't, he shares out, here's this text that she sent her friend that said, I'm going to have him choke me. That doesn't mean that, him punching her was necessarily consensual. I don't know. Here's what I know. Even if there was a consensual agreement to have rough sex, what we saw, those pictures, present a picture where, yeah, I'm good with this guy not playing for my team. I don't care what was consensual between someone and another person. Being that violent towards a woman under any circumstances, agreed upon or not, I don't know what the line is. I got to be honest with you. But I'm okay with saying, yeah, not for me. And I don't know that which allegations are the problematic. I didn't pay enough attention to Major League Baseball's report to know which part of this they said that's the reason why we're suspending you. Because my guess is nothing that came out yesterday would invalidate that suspension. That's my guess. My guess is that nothing was proven yesterday that would make it so that Major League Baseball definitively overreached. Certainly seems like there is probably a bit more gray area about the entirety of the story than how it was originally presented. But what we're failing to grasp is the story was never presented as Trevor Bauer raped someone. So proving consent, well, that wasn't the actual problem. The problem is the extent of the violence. And even some of the texts that we've seen afterwards that would, again, suggest that the actual sexual act itself was consensual. Even the jokes that she was sending to her friends the next day said, yeah, but I didn't expect him to give me a black eye. So there's still too much there for us to make these sweeping generalizations. And there is no world in which I'm comfortable labeling Trevor Bauer as being a victim. I think that's insane. And I think it does marginalize that there have been people who have just been patently falsely accused of things that were blatantly false. And I don't want to marginalize them either. There appears to still be a lot of gray area about this story. And by the way, there were also 3 other accusers that we haven't, because the only story that's been presented is this, and because Trevor Bauer and the people that represent him and make money off of him all want the narrative to be that Trevor Bauer was falsely accused and we can prove it.
They're trying to make it, he was targeted.
Right, all of these things. And again, the only thing they've factually done is suggest that there is more gray area to the story. And that if anybody has suggested that Trevor Bauer raped this girl, then they've probably proven that's not the case. But I don't believe that was ever alleged. I don't think that ever came up. I think the girl from the moment one, the victim here, the alleged victim, said that I had consensually agreed upon having sex But the issue was the extent of the violence. And in the end, I don't feel any different about that. There's still no world in which I would ever be okay with Trevor Bauer playing for my team. Seeing the images of you being involved with a woman and her looking like that, man, I don't care what. I don't want to get personal by any aspect, but I don't care if a girl said to me, I want you to be physical with me. There's no way we're getting to there. So we got to be careful in how we have these conversations. It's easy to fall into the trap of the narrative that someone once presented. It's easy to fall in the trap of, again, the dumbing down, this Twitter thing where everybody, what John Jameson in Sheboygan says is as valuable as someone who's actually reporting on the issue, the America that Elon Musk wants. But we've got to be capable of having bigger brains here and not just falling for the notion that this video that Trevor Bauer presented yesterday is proof of full exoneration of him ever having done anything wrong. That's not what occurred. What did occur? I don't know enough to be able to tell you that. I can't. I couldn't possibly. But what I know is that this video that he made, that everybody shared out, and that's fine, right? Like, it was newsworthy, what he had to say. It didn't say Trevor Bauer has done nothing wrong here and is a victim. And there's still a lot of layers to this conversation. A lot of them. And we've got to be capable of having adult conversations about that moving forward. And what it definitely doesn't mean is that, well, now I'd be comfortable with my team signing Trevor Bauer. Not a chance in hell. Now I've said my piece about it, and we can move on. Let's get a tidbit. Oh, but there was a sports-related question last night at trivia. It was not a great trivia night for us. I think we finished in 4th. Ugh.
Oh, man.
Stunk.
Jeez.
Stunk. After we were
Why'd you
3rd
guys
last
show
week.
up?
Yeah, right? And that's after we got the final. The final was extraordinary. I'm going to guess you don't know, but it's a very recent current event story.
Then probably not.
Yeah. Eric Johnson recently switched party affiliations, becoming the only mayor in the country of a city of 1 million or more people to now be a registered Republican. What city is Eric Johnson the mayor of?
That would have to probably be, Sioux Falls, South Dakota?
I don't know if there are 1 million people in Sioux Falls, South Dakota or not, but it's not Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Maybe Oklahoma City.
It's not Oklahoma City. 0 for 2. Keep going. Let's see how.
Albuquerque?
It's not Albuquerque. 0 for 3.
Santa Fe.
Not Santa Fe. I don't know if there's 1 million people in Santa Fe.
Oh, man.
4. I'm going to guess there aren't.
Dallas.
Number 5. You get it.
Really?
On the 5th try, Dallas is. So we got it, and we got all the points for that, but we still finished in 4th place.
Who knew it was Dallas?
Most people. It's been a very popular, a very discussed recent news story. Like, that's why I didn't like it as a final. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was glad I knew it, but like as a final, that's a story that has been quite prevalent in recent weeks in America. The only sports question, name the Atlanta Braves player
Matt Olson,
who recently joined the 40-40 club.
Not Matt Olson.
There was a bonus point available for, can you name the last player to have joined the 40-40 club in 2006 with the Washington Nationals?
All right, well, so it was Ronald Acuna.
Obviously, yes.
The Nationals?
Which, again, I feel like most of the bar got. Not everybody, but I feel like most people got Ronald Acuna. There were only 2 of us who got it, and I got to be honest with you, I almost didn't get it.
So Alfonso Soriano was.
That's the correct answer. And this is the goofy part. I utterly forgot that Alfonso Soriano was a national.
I was like, well, but it still had to be.
So the way the question was written, I was like, okay, I think the last guy in the 40-40 club was Alfonso Soriano. I don't remember Alfonso Soriano playing for the Nationals, but I'm pretty sure it's the answer, and I can't think of anybody else who would have been a national in 2006. That would have been in the 40-40 club. So
Ryan Zimmerman.
40 stolen bases for Ryan Zimmerman.
I mean, I think that's the only 06 national I could think of.
Was Dimitri Young still a national in 06? Josh Willingham, was he a national in 06? See if we can pull up. Hang on. No.
Okay.
pull up the 2006 Nationals. Let's see if I can name 5 players. See if I don't know how many guesses I would need in order to get there. But obviously, we would go with Ryan Zimmerman.
You got Zimmerman.
Okay.
He was 3rd on the team in WAR.
We of course know Alfonso Soriano now.
He was 1st in WAR that season.
2 for 2. Was Dimitri Young a National?
Dimitri Young was let's see, he was not in their starting 9 on Baseball Reference here. Doesn't look like it.
All right.
Does not look like it.
Was Josh Willingham a National in 2006?
Josh Willingham was not.
Oh, boy. I don't think we're going to do well here. I might not be able to do this. I'm trying to think of any of the former Expos that might have still been on the Nationals. The only one that might have been is Jose Vidro. Was Jose Vidro
Jose Vidro. Wait, I thought I just saw it there. No. Oh, yeah, yes. Jose Vidro
Hey,
was. Second
I got
baseman.
a 3rd.
He played 120 games, yeah.
Josh Willingham did not show up in Washington until 2009. So, yeah, that's what it is. The pitchers count?
Yeah, pitchers can count.
Was Chad Cordero with the Nationals in 2006?
Chad Cordero, yes, he was.
Hey!
He played 65 appearances. I guess, yeah, it was a bullpen arm there.
So I've gotten 4.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't think
Vidro.
there's a chance in hell that I can come up with another one, though.
2nd on the team in WAR with a 5.0 WAR. The first baseman that season. He hit 290.
You know what's crazy about that? That's Adley Rutschman's WAR, right? Like, he had a hell of a season, obviously.
He had a 948 OPS in 147 games.
Damn.
Yeah. He had 46 doubles.
I don't think I
there's
come up with
any other way I can give a hint for this guy, because
I got nothing, man.
Generic last name.
Okay.
Let's see. No, he wasn't an Oriole. Okay. He started with the Yankees. Nick Johnson.
Oh, Nick Johnson. I do kind of remember Nick Johnson. Yeah, that's
Nick
a good
Johnson.
point.
Oh yeah, he played in 2012. He was with the Orioles. What?
I don't remember Nick Johnson being an Oriole in 2012. What, did he play?
He had apparently 38 games.
How the hell do I not remember that at all?
Number 33 for the Baltimore
I
Orioles
don't
in
remember Nick
2012.
Johnson having. I'm starting to think this is like that Sinbad movie thing, where like you say something's a fact, but I'm not sure if it's a fact or not. That is really weird. Was Livan Hernandez on that team? Was he? It was his era, right?
Oh yes, Livan Hernandez was in fact
5.
Yeah, there you go.
5, baby, 2006 Washington Nationals. But I didn't know that last night. I did not realize that Soriano was a National.
Marlon Byrd was on this team as well.
Okay. All right.
The center fielder.
But I did get it right is the point.
Yes.
Here's one that I'll be embarrassed that you definitely won't know that was trivia last night. Can you name the current 2 senators from the state of Maryland?
Ben Cardin?
Yes. By the way, you did one better than I thought you were going to do.
I hope my mom's not listening
Oh,
today.
for God's sakes,
She's gonna be
Griffin.
disappointed in me. Who's the other senator?
This isn't good, dude.
Oh, man, I should
These
know
are the little
this.
things. Like, I think you should be able to name the entire congressional delegation from your state.
Wow.
No, I think that people should be able to do that. I don't think it should be asking that much to know the I mean, especially in a state our size. Maybe in California I can understand, like, not knowing the congressional delegation. But in a state our size, we should know.
Justin Reedy, he's a delegate.
He's a delegate.
Yeah.
He's not. That's a state office. That's not a.
Oh, okay, that's not congressional.
Yeah.
Man, yeah. I mean, I got nothing. Oh, man, who's our other senator?
There's 100 senators in the country.
I know.
2 of them represent our state.
I know. Well, I
We
know
vote
Ben
on both.
Cardin is, yeah.
We vote on both of them. This is not like, representative or Congress people. You only vote the one that represents your district.
This one wasn't up in the most recent. Were they? Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to.
Chris Van Hollen.
Chris Van Hollen.
Come on, man, we
course.
got to be able to do that. How many of the Congress people from Maryland do you think you could name?
I mean, we have what, 7, 6?
Yeah, it's 7, right? Oh God! Now,
Oh,
wait a
now
minute. You're turning the
Come on,
table. Hang
Glenn.
on a second. Wait a second. I'm gonna write them all down. Hang on.
I don't. Yeah, man. Can I really not name any?
Oh no.
I don't think I can. The Maryland representatives.
Right, that one. Maybe it is only 6.
Can I text my sister, see if she knows?
No!
Just because I'm curious if she knows.
What the hell do you think this is? Who wants to be a millionaire? Are you serious?
I don't think I can name any. I'm sorry. I'm
Are
sorry
you
to the state.
serious?
I don't know. I can't name any representative. I got Ben Cardin. That's a good one.
You got one of the 2 senators. You can't name a single congressperson from the state of.
No, I can't. I'm sorry. I don't think I don't know. I'm trying to think of who anyone like remotely around my age that would know, and I think my sister probably is the closest person that I would have. That's in my in my circle of people that would know. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Oh, you know what? I actually forgot about one because hang on, and this is the reason why, because just went into office this year, and I completely forgot that Anthony Brown took a. I would have. The number is 8, by the way,
8,
and I would have gotten all 8 except for I still would have had Anthony Brown on my list because I completely forgot that Anthony Brown moved into the
Ravens practice squad to represent the country.
Quarterback. No, Anthony Brown, the former lieutenant governor, became the attorney general of the state of Maryland, and so they had to replace him, and I utterly forgot about the guy that they replaced him with. So you can go ahead and ask her, but this is really shameful that you couldn't name one. Like some of them, some of them have gotten a lot of publicity recently. Jamie Raskin, for example, has gotten a ton of publicity of late. He had went through a cancer battle. Little Steven from the E Street Band sent him from The Sopranos, sent him a cool bandana to wear around the Capitol while he was going through his cancer battle. Jamie Raskin. Andy Harris is the only Republican of the group. Pretty hot-button figure in the state of Maryland.
Yeah, I should have known Andy Harris.
How about former Baltimore County Executive Dutch Ruppersberger? Pretty well-known name.
My sister can't name any, so yeah.
Jesus Christ.
My one lifeline is
what
done.
are we teaching in the schools?
That's a good question.
That's the founder. In fact, Stan brought him up on the show on Friday. The man who founded Total Wine is also one of the representatives in the state of Maryland. Yeah. He's running, I believe, for Ben Cardin's Senate seat as well. Yeah, you don't know. It's David Trone is the name of that person. John Sarbanes.
Glenn Ivey won.
Glenn Ivey is the one that played.
My sister did.
He replaced Anthony. She might have looked it up on the internet at this point if she said no at first. Jesus. Steny Hoyer and the man who was the former head of the NAACP, Kwesi Mfume, who replaced the late Elijah Cummings, was his replacement in the United States Congress. Those are the 8 Congress people, the 8 representatives from the state of Maryland. How many of the you know what? We're going to save it for another day.
Do the counties again?
I do the county quiz all the time, and it bothers.
I forget what I got when I started.
Yeah, well, we might revisit it.
I think I could do better than when I started.
I don't even know if I want to do your tidbit after that performance, and it's also 12:26.
Yeah. All right, I'll do a quick one.
Give me a quick hitter. Can we save trivia for tomorrow?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Daniel Jones. Okay, well, we'll start here. Giants are the only team to play 3 primetime games so far this season. They are, of course, 0-3, have a negative 79-point differential, being outscored 94-15 in their 3 primetime games. It is the worst point differential in any team in any span of 3 primetime games, of 3 consecutive primetime games in a season ever in NFL history. So, historically bad start for the Giants. Why have they been on 3 primetime games?
Because it's the New York market. Okay. Because that's the reality. Like this, you're stuck with this for forever because they fall into the traps of Cowboys, New York, still Chicago. Packers will still pop up a few times because of the brand value. They fall into brand value and market size over the players because everybody recognizes, now we know, the NBA figured this out years ago. You guys want to watch the players. That's what you want to watch.
So put Steph Curry on TV.
Put Steph Curry, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, put the stars of stars on television as frequently as possible. And in the NFL, they, for some reason, despite being the NFL, have failed to recognize that that's what we want to watch. We want to watch the players. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we don't want to watch good teams. Like, we would prefer that those players be on the good teams. Like, Russell Wilson has a lot of name brand value. He's also not a good player anymore. Like, I'm trying to think of an example of someone who's a good player on a bad team. A quarterback. And it's the quarterbacks that we're talking about. I can't think of somebody who's
Josh Dobbs. Yeah.
Right, thank you. Who's a really good quarterback on a bad team? I don't think there is one.
I mean, I guess you are
Joe Burrow.
Towards her.
Joe Burrow could end up being that guy if the Bengals continue. Although Joe Burrow is also playing quite poorly, so that wouldn't be a good example.
Justin Herbert at times, I don't just.
They're not a bad team though. Like at the lowest level, they're a team that flirts with the playoffs, right? Like, it's never a mistake to put Justin Herbert on Kyler Murray, but he hasn't been that good. But Kyler Murray might be the closest argument to this. Like we wouldn't want you to put the Cardinals on just because of Kyler Murray. We want it to be good players on good teams. We'll watch every time. But they refuse to. They just want to keep force-feeding you the old reliables.
We'll talk about these big markets. There are two teams who are yet to run an offensive play with a lead this season.
It's the Jets and the Giants. I did see that last night.
Jets and the Giants have yet to. Daniel Jones now 1-12 on primetime, far and away the worst winning percentage and record of any quarterback to start at least 10 games.
Kirk Cousins is laughing at Daniel Jones' primetime record.
Andy Dalton also has a very bad primetime record, 6-21 in his career. But Daniel Jones with a .077.
1-12. That's remarkable.
1-12.
All right.
And last night, Devon Witherspoon became the most recent rookie with 2 sacks and an interception in the same game. He is the 5th to do so since 2002. Can you name the other 4 defensive rookies with 2 sacks and an interception? Before Witherspoon was 2019. Before that, 2017. And then 03 and 02 were the other 2, which might be tougher to get. But we'll see.
Jesus. 2 sacks and an interception. You said 2019?
Yes, 2019.
The years actually aren't helping me, unfortunately. 2019. Who was in the draft in 2019? That would have been...
So
Kyler Murray was the number 1 pick that year?
Yes.
Was that draft? So Bosa? Is it Bosa?
Nick Bosa of
okay.
the 49ers. So, yeah, even though Witherspoon is a DB, the other guys are not DBs.
Well, that's the sacks. I assumed it was either linebackers or edge rushers that came out with the pick. 2017. Dude, we're going to be here all day. You're going to have to give me something on this.
He is AFC North team.
Garrett?
Not Garrett.
Watt?
Yep, TJ Watts.
Was he really all the way back in 2017?
Yeah, he's been around for a while now. And then in 2003, Minnesota Viking.
2003 Minnesota Viking.
He was the 9th overall pick in the 2003 NFL draft.
9th overall pick. It wasn't Greenway, was it?
No, it wasn't Greenway.
2003, 9th overall pick by the Vikings in 2003. God, what edge rusher or linebacker?
More of a D tackle, like
Williams.
Kevin Williams.
Defensive tackle. That's the goofiest thing.
And then 2002, this rookie.
By the way, I couldn't have told you which Williams was which Williams because it could have also been Pat Williams, and I wouldn't have. I don't know.
Kevin, yes.
I'm telling you, in my mind, those two humans are the exact same person. Which one was the one that got busted for like using some star caps or whatever? I don't know. I'll never be able to tell the difference in Kevin Williams.
I got Kevin's Wikipedia up here, so it doesn't look like it was him.
All right.
And then finally, this 2002 rookie who you should be able to get was a Carolina Panther, 2nd overall pick.
Peppers? Okay.
Peppers.
All right. Very good. Very good. Hey, Tidbit was also brought to you today by the Stand the Fan Variety Hour. I believe they had to move some things around this week because of the memorial and folks that were coming into town for that. So I'm guessing that means probably today for Stan, Ross, and Luke, but I don't know that with certainty. Mostly on Mondays, Stan, Ross, and Luke get together to talk baseball with you, and I'm assuming that will be back. But just bear with them because I think there was a bit of a scheduling snafu this week. But Stan, Ross, and Luke talking baseball with you every week. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline, or PressBoxOnline.com/video. Tubular, brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Baseball starts this afternoon. One of those fun days where you can just watch sports all day, which I always enjoy. It's sort of like NCAA tournament week or the college basketball tournament week around Thanksgiving. Like this is one of those, or college bowl season. One of those days.
Feast week.
Yeah,
right.
That's the college basketball
the
thing.
Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Yes.
Today, ABC for Game 1 between the Rangers and Rays. Of course, that's the one that matters most to us. Jordan Montgomery, Tyler Glasnow, the pitching matchup there. ESPN at 4:30 has Game 1 between the Blue Jays and Twins. Kevin Gausman, Pablo Lopez. Then Game 1 between the Marlins and Phillies at 8. Jesus Luzardo and Zach Wheeler. ESPN 2 for Game 1 between the Diamondbacks and Brewers at 7 o'clock. Who is Brandon Pfaadt? I don't know anything about this person.
Fat.
Yes.
I think he's
Who
a rookie.
is that?
I think he's a rookie, and he's been having. I feel like they were using him. Like I feel like they were using him as
Maybe
a closer at some point.
He might be
and
brilliant.
he's been-
I don't know, but I'm just realizing that I don't know a Game 1 playoff starter for a team. That's how separated I am from the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Brandon. I thought his name was Andrew.
Brandon Pfat going up against Corbin Burns there. Oh, and Woodruff is done. Like Woodruff is unavailable for the playoffs. I think is what I heard.
The playoffs?
I think that's what I heard.
The first series or two.
I thought it was like one of those. They're saying that because they can't. That it didn't seem like there was a lot of hope about him being available at all. But maybe I'm wrong. Tonight, Maryland soccer's on TV, 7 o'clock against Rutgers on Big Ten Network. ESPN Plus has Navy UMBC soccer at 7 o'clock. NHL Network, Capitals Bruins preseason, 7 o'clock. It's also on Monumental Sports Network, and Ducks Kings at 10 o'clock. USA Network for WWE NXT tonight at 8 as well. Anything non-sports wise?
Yeah, a few things here. Welcome to Wrexham at 10 o'clock on FX. It is the season 3 finale of Only Murders in the Building on Hulu, and on Disney Plus, it is the season 1 finale of Ahsoka.
Okay.
So check those out, and then the other thing. No, go to Glenn Clark Radio. Not a highlight.
What?
Prime Video is doing it's like a haunted house special. Make Me Scream special. 3 celebrity teams have to make it through a haunted house without screaming.
Yep, good. You should have.
The one celebrity I recognized, Lil Xan, was the one.
Oh, God. None of this matters, though, because you're going to be with us at Guilford Hall Brewery tonight for the Tyus Bowser Show with special guest Justice Hill at 7 o'clock. So none of the rest of this matters because we're going to see you there tonight, 7 o'clock. Tyus and Justice Hill at Guilford Hall Brewery. Come hang out with us. It's brought to you by Superbook Sports and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. Of course, Superbook Sports still offering you that $250, up to $250 same-day first bet match, win or lose, if you use the code GlennClark23 when you sign up, Superbook.com, or download the Superbook app. All right, very good. Thanks today to Cal Ripken, Matt Millen, Corporal Robbie Wright of the Baltimore County Police Department, Joe Serpico. We'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh, my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Anything tomorrow?
We'll catch up with Peter Schmuck.
Peter
tomorrow.
Schmuck's going to join us tomorrow?
Stuff and things.
Okay. Thanks, everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel, the Maryland 5-Star, A.J. Michaels, the Baltimore County Police Department, Royal Farms, Costas Inn, Superbook Sports, Hartford County, your local Toyota dealer, and buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Tuesday evening. Do we care about
maybe an asteroid hits lands in St. Petersburg.
Let's not say that. Go Maryland and UMBC soccer. Duke sucks.